to do that, he had to jump up and call Daniel's bluff, specifically because that would be the new in thing. Look, everyone's scared. They're scared of our strength, our power. Look how strong we are. But by calling that bluff, I have to say, Daniel looked like a little punk. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very clear when you say that to my face. What you're actually saying is you're too scared to say that to my face because you know that there would be violent repercussions, and you're too scared to come over and say that to my face. And he did it, and then Daniel just, what's going on here? I don't know.
Let's sit down and talk.
Hey, is that still the Predator laptop? Does his laptop still say Predator on it?
Yeah.
They don't even cover it
I
up.
thought maybe he would,
Hey.
would put a label on it or something. I don't know, or just scratch it, but nothing.
Hey, before the next debate, someone should get a little sticker that says sex, and then like sneak up right beforehand when he looks the other way and put sex right above it.
But let's set something straight here. So these, Muslim fans of Daniel Hikiju and others want to post these videos out of context and act like it is the other one, the Islamophobe here, who is being unreasonable and crazy and all of that. But what is happening here is pretty simple. If you are in a heated debate and somebody says things to you that you are uncomfortable with, not for no reason, because if we watch the whole debate, we can see Daniel attacking Matt personally over and over and over and over again, and Matt doing the same thing, and also speaking with the F word, and Matt actually doing it much less, and rather attacking his disgusting views. If you then sit there and you make the suggestion, you say, how about you come and say that right here? That is a direct initiation of a suggestion of violence. That means you can't handle what is being said right now. You are challenging your opponent to come here and say it right there because you don't like his words. Because if he comes here, then you may get violent. It is therefore Daniel the Kikachu here who is initiating the suggestion of violence. And Matt is not reacting to it with violence. He's going over there and calling out his bluff, and Daniel sits there like a little cat, like a little kitten, shy, and asks him to just sit back down, please. Go sit down. Let's not do this.
I will say, I disagreed with both of them throughout the whole debate. I watched the whole thing. I will say the one thing I would give advice to Matt on is you can't get emotional with Daniel because they will cut those clips. They'll take them out of context if we're already seen him use it. You got to be stoic with them because Daniel likes to push your buttons, as I've seen in multiple debates preparing for my debate with him. So that's why in my debate I tried to remain as stoic as possible because it gives him nothing to play with. And you see this in here. He gives the Muslims a lot to play with because Matt, rightly so, gets emotional at the point at Daniel's position of saying it's okay for 9-year-olds to be married off and have sex with. I mean, yeah, it's hard to keep your cool when people are saying that, but that's what Daniel wants. He wants to say outrageous things to get you annoyed and emotional, and then he turns that and tries to use that against you. Sleazy tactic, but I mean that's what he does.
Hey, two things real quick. One, I just thought of this, but Christians should use this clip and title it "Christian Saves Muslim from Atheist," and have the labels on like Daniel Muslim, and then Matt coming across stage atheist, and then James, and then like break into some song like "And I will always love you," like he saves the day and something. Yeah. So with that said, I mean, on the one hand, you can kind of understand Daniel's perspective because he likes to play these debates on his channel and so on. So he doesn't want cursing and so on. And that could be a thing that if you want a rule about language, you should discuss that before the debate. Say here are the rules we're going to follow during the debate. So anyway, I can kind of get Daniel, not wanting Matt to say certain things, but I mean at the same time, if you want people to be nice, you should be playing nice and not constantly doing things to enrage people. But I mean, think about the moral compass of Daniel. Sex with little kids, good. F word, really bad.
Yeah, right. That is the thing, right?
Sex with little kids, wife beating, enslaving people, murdering apostates, all that good. Where does he draw the line? F word. That's too much. Going around here, beating your 6-year-old child bride into submission and so on. That's fine. F word? No, that's too much for my perfectly functioning moral compass.
It's not just that. It's like your opponents should be executed, should be killed. People who leave Islam should be killed. People should be fought and enslaved. But hey, why is he allowed to say the F word?
That is one question. If I would have more time in the cross-examination in my debate with Daniel, I was going to ask him about that whole wife-beating thing. Like, so if a man has got a 6-year-old child bride, could he hit her if she is refusing him sex? Like, for weeks, they've been married, she's hiding. Could he start hitting her? Like, I didn't get a chance to because we ran out of time, but that was on my list. Yeah,
just so you know, the correct answer is yes.
Yeah, from him, yeah, for sure. We know it is.
Oh, I was talking about Islamically, yeah.
Yeah.
What is this, man? Guy is eating here on the live stream. Very
amateur.
Yeah, amateur. You're muted, David. You just muted
Now you're
yourself.
muted.
Yeah, amateur.
There you go.
Just,
Ugh.
go back.
I muted myself because I'm crunching on crackers here. Hey, AP, who you calling a cracker? What's wrong with you, man? I'll put my crackers away. I wanted energy to be awesome for this show, but I'll just be all weak and lethargic instead.
What
all right.
is?
That's all right. I got a big thing
What'd
of
you do?
black coffee.
What did I just?
Well, we gotta we do eventually got to go to the 2 hours and 30-minute mark because I come up in this debate unexpectedly. Well, I should have expected it. I mean, when I debated Daniel in April, I believe it was, Matt comes in the room while we're watching the earlier debates, and he comes over to me and goes, "Hey, am I right in assuming that after my debate, the rest of this conference is about whether or not we can children or not?" And I was like, because I was going against Daniel, and then after me was Dizzle here debating Kenny Boomer on the age of Aisha.
So I can't.
Sorry. You mean Kenny Boomer, not Boomer, right?
Boomer, yeah, whatever. I forget how to pronounce his last name. My bad.
Respond to any
So
point
you
'cause
do
won't
believe
shut the
in
fuck
schooling
up.
rape?
So
You believe in?
do you want an answer? Or do
educational
you want
rape?
Look at Daniel's face after he got completely worked up because he just came walking over.
You can't
Hey,
respond.
what's funny is the PowerPoint behind him says Islam is balanced.
Can't respond to any
So
point
you
'cause
do
won't
believe
shut
in
the fuck up.
schooling rape?
So
You believe in?
Would
do you want an answer?
This is a common tactic from Daniel, is that he will just do like movie police scene interrogator. Where like, you believe this? Why would you believe that? Answer me on this. Answer me. Like he tried to do it in my debate with him, and I had to keep pointing out. He kept interrupting me. He tries to do like this long, drawn-out interrogator thing where he asks the same thing over and over again, or says the same thing.
Do you have a timestamp of? I forgot to note that, but there was this one part where Daniel pressed him on answering a question with yes or no, which was on whether he is for whether he wants to allow or punish 9-year-olds having sex with each other or having relationships or not. And
Yeah, I think it's
yes or no.
Let me find it. I think I know where it is, but I think it's right before this.
Actually, let's just go by your plan. I think we made a much better plan. With your
Well,
times.
it can't be any worse than your plan, which is just randomly
That is true.
jumping around.
Yeah. I was thinking IP should make a podcast, a daily podcast named IP Every Day or something. like
IP Daily.
that. Yeah, IP Daily or IP. I thought that would be a brilliant thing.
Yo, it's if you go to like 2:30, they talk about me, and then right after is the yes or no thing you were just talking about. So it's
Okay.
like 2:30, then like the yes or no.
Presented nowhere. Did I say that? Oh yeah, 4-year-olds go through puberty and
Yeah, go back a little bit. 'Cause, yeah, this is where he starts to lie because he
basis
definitely.
Whoa. Daniel can't lie. He's one of the few.
terrorists. That's
Daniel doesn't lie. They don't lie.
very convenient for you. But the people who are being killed by these groups did consider them to be terrorists. The regimes that were displaced by these groups did consider them to be terrorists. But the winners are able to write history. You keep bringing up like this point about 4-year-olds. This is like a straw man that was put forth in a previous debate. Nowhere did I say that a 4-year-old should be, in a sexual relationship. It was a hypothetical presented
Okay.
to me, and I answered that on the basis of the hypothetical that was presented. Nowhere did I say that, oh yeah, 4-year-olds go through puberty and therefore they should be sexually active.
So you're
So
saying
that's-
a hypothetical 4-year-old who went through precocious puberty would be okay? That's what you said in the debate.
So we can go through
Right.
what I said in the
Hey,
debate.
hold it up. Like, okay, let me be clear. Hypothetically, if there were a hypothetical 4-year-old that hypothetically reached precocious puberty, yes, I would hypothetically marry and bone that 4-year-old. That's all I'm saying. But so that's what I'm saying. This is a straw man. I'm not saying about anything actual. I'm not saying anything in the real world. I'm just saying, yeah, hypothetically, 4-year-old, totally open game there. This is crazy, man.
So ridiculous. I am going to play IP. Let me know whenever you want to pause and add something. I'm also going to play the clip
Well-
just to show people what exactly happened.
Yeah, let's just keep playing a little bit of this. But yeah, what Daniel's trying to do is he in my debate with him, I proposed this hypothetical that if a 4-year-old went through precocious puberty, because he said if a girl is showing any signs of puberty, they can be married off and the marriage can be consummated. So, okay, 4-year-old goes through precocious puberty, and he said if there are signs, then yes. So he did say that you can't
Yeah,
sleep
he
with
did.
4-year-olds in Islam. He
Yeah.
is now trying to backwalk. He's trying to walk back on this. And I'm surprised because I thought he was the honest Muslim apologist. Here he is walking back on it. So.
Well, look at how he just defended himself, because that's a little diabolical there. Look what he actually said. He's actually correct. I did not say that a 4-year-old should be sexually active. I responded to a hypothetical situation. So yeah, he's correct. It doesn't mean he didn't say yes. If a girl gets puberty, precocious puberty at 4, then she should start having sex, or she should be married off, and so on. Because he did include that no, it requires things like parental consent and so
Oh,
on.
hold on, dude. But it gets worse. You would think that, but he is going to now clarify
Yep.
what he supposedly actually said, and he will completely deny what he said.
Yep.
So it
Really?
is getting much
Oh, this
worse.
is
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Let's
Okay, so yeah, just based on what he just said, I was like, yes, he's technically correct if he wanted to say it, even though he was obviously defending marriage to and sex with 4-year-olds, because that's what the Quran does.
Yeah,
Go
but
ahead.
it's getting much worse. Look at this.
But I thought you want to stick on the topic of the debate.
Well, I'm just saying you're now denying that you said what we all heard you say, which
No, I
got
said-
popularized over the internet because Mike specifically asked if a 4-year-old goes through precocious puberty, under your version of what Allah permits, is it permissible to marry and have sex with her? And your answer was yes.
No, the point that I put to that person in that debate was that if we accept that someone is going through puberty, that means that the person is going to desire sexual relations. They're going to desire to be sexually active. And that is a biological fact. It just doesn't happen at 4 years old. It happens at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And that's why when we look at American culture and Western
Okay,
culture,
pause it real fast.
He,
Pause
he
it before we-
completely
before he
denied what he
jumps.
actually said.
Yeah, he's about to change subject here, but yeah, he's completely
complete
denied.
lie.
The way he worded it is not what happened in the debate. The way he worded it here was that if I was saying in some other world, if people started going through puberty at 4, would it be okay to marry and have sex with them? But that's not what I said. I gave real life things that have happened in our world where 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 11-month-old at one point went through precocious puberty. And in the real world, if that happened, in Islam, would it be morally permissible for that girl to be married off by her parents and then the pedophile husband starts raping her? Because that's what it would be. And he said, yes, that would be morally permissible in Islam. Now he's walking back on that, which is very odd considering he's kind of built up his reputation for being honest about what Islam teaches.
But look,
Wow.
look at even what he said. Even in his dialed back version that he's presenting now, he's like, "Oh, I'm simply saying that once a child goes through puberty, that child is going to be desiring sex, and that's just a biological fact. And so you got to do something with that, and marriage would be the outcome." So, if an 11-month-old baby gets precocious puberty, that 11-month-old is going to start getting really horny and looking around. Oh, I need someone here. What am I going to do? Oh, and the parents will be like, "Oh, we got to do something." So we'll marry our 11-month-old baby off to Daniel Hakikachu here.
Let's look at what he actually said, and then I want to play again his response to Matt. let's look at what he really said in this clip.
He's just behind the Predator laptop. For anyone wondering, he's just
yeah.
behind the Predator laptop.
Too perfect, man.
Signs of physical
Keep
maturity.
in mind, he bought that at some point, right? He decided to buy that at some point. Like, he's like, all the laptops out there, hey, this has an Apple logo. I don't like apples. Ooh, this one has a Predator logo on it. Yeah, that's all me.
me. Yeah.
It's permissible for the husband in Islamic law to have marital relationships or consummate the relation with his bride. And this is the example of the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Do you know what precocious puberty is?
Starting puberty unusually early. Like,
Is there anything in Islam that prevents you from, a man marrying a 5-year-old that started precocious puberty?
you can arrange a marriage even as an infant, but that doesn't mean that sex is allowed.
Could a man have a marriage to a 5-year-old consummated if she started precocious?
Consummated.
Starts showing signs of physical maturity, then yes, that's permissible. As I
What
said,
about age
principle.
4?
He specifically asked about consummated.
So this is something that becomes biologically impossible because for
I have a
puberty,
study
there are
that shows
no.
it goes as early as 11 months.
Well, that's something that the parents would not. See, the thing about Islamic marriage is that parents are involved at these ages, and when you look at the marriage of
So you just heard it. Mike asked him specifically about what was it, 4 years old, 5 years old, 4 years old. He said
3.
yes. He said yes. If there are signs of puberty, then it is yes appropriate and allowable for that child to get married and also to consummate the marriage. So to have sex. So for a man to, for example, have sex with a 4-year-old girl. That is specifically what is being said here. If there are signs of early puberty. Mike pushes and goes to the age of 3. Daniel claims that it is biologically not possible. Mike refutes it and says it goes as early as 11 months. And then he brings in the other standards of the parents being in charge and them probably not allowing it and so on. But what he clearly says here, we have heard it all, is that if there are signs of early maturity at the age of 4, then yes, the marriage can be consummated. Sex can be had. But if we go over to the discussion with Matt Dillahunty, he completely denies that. Now let's play it again. This is a clear, blatant lie. Unbelievable.
Saying you're now denying that you said what we all heard you say, which
No, I
got
said-
popularized over the internet because Mike specifically asked if a 4-year-old goes through precocious puberty, under your version of what Allah permits, is it permissible to marry and have sex with her? And your answer was yes.
No, the point that I put to that person in that debate was that if we accept that someone is going through puberty, that means that the person is going to desire sexual relations. They're going to desire to be sexually active. And that is a biological fact. It just doesn't happen at 4 years old. It happens at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And that's why when we look at American...
So,
No,
It's-
you were,
it's-
no,
it's
you were
very clear, right?
specifically asked. He was specifically asked about marrying and consummating marriage with a 5-year-old, with a 4-year-old. He agreed, indeed, if she shows signs of maturity, then you can have sex with her, marry her and have sex with her. And then his only response to the 11-month-old, because that was something apparently new to him, was, yeah, but you'd have to get parental consent, and no parent would consent unless we've conditioned the parent to think that it's best. But hey, I did want to point out one additional thing for everyone who's watching and anyone who's new to this. As revolting as Daniel's position is, as horrifying as it is, as you look at this and go, oh my goodness, what? That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. He is still massively more moral than his God and his prophet, who allow there's no requirement of puberty in Islam, right? There are schools of thought who have suggested that later on, but Aisha had not reached puberty according to the hadith, and Surah 65 verse 4 of the Quran does not require puberty. It specifically refers to marrying and having sex with girls marrying, having sex with, divorcing, and passing on to another man, girls, all before they've reached the age of puberty. According to the Quran and according to the commentaries, a Muslim man can marry a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, whatever, have sex with her, get bored with her, divorce her, pass her on to another guy who can marry her, have sex with her, divorce her, pass her on to the next guy. This can all happen before a girl has ever even reached puberty. So as revolting as Daniel is, he is a light. He is a light. He is a beacon of morality within Islam.
One of my favorite things is Daniel will not even name me. Like Matt is going Mike Jones, Mike this, Mike that, and Matt and Daniel are going, yeah, that person I was having a debate with.
The man, that Christian who shall not be named, yeah.
That man. I find it. I just want to stay on the fact that we have a very clear, undeniable, blatant lie on display here, and I just can't get over such things by just saying, oh, look, you see, he lied. Anyway, because I mean, this is a guy who is respected by so many Islamists as a fantastic debater who crushes his opponents and all of that. And we know that he's a liar. We know that he's a horrible person. We know that he says horrible things. But here we have a very clear presentation, a very clear display of him lying, precisely lying without any excuse about what he said before. And there is no way he doesn't remember what he actually said. There is no way he suddenly changed his mind on this whole stuff completely and he was like, oh, I would have never said that because I don't believe that. No, he was clearly asked by Mike and he answered, and now he's denying to have ever said it and he's making up a different story. Daniel, why in the world are you lying? Dear audience, dear fans of Daniel Kikuchu, why is your guy lying here and how in the world does he get away with this?
And,
those questions I wrote were worded specific. I wrote those out in March before the debate. All right, how can I make sure? I don't want to say, can a man have sex with a 4-year-old? Because something like, no. But so I worded it specifically, can a man marry and consummate the marriage before puberty? Because that's what he asked. So yes to, and he did. He walked right into it and said it. And also his argument here in this debate is a little weird because he's saying well, if a 9, 10, or 11-year-old's going through puberty, they're going to want to desire sex, therefore they should be married. Well, by that logic, if your only argument as to why you should allow child marriage, well, at least in this instance the argument is because they desire sex. What about homosexuals at this point? They desire to have homosexual relationships. Is that evidence that we should allow homosexual marriage? Or is the desire only permissible when it fits with his Islamic views? You just can't argue from desire. That's a bad argument.
Liar! You're a liar! You're a liar!
Sorry, I had to play that sound.
Yeah, and by the way, that liar thing is very important because, especially in early conversations I have with people, I'm more interested in finding out. I mean, sometimes I'll go through the entire first conversation with someone trying to figure out, is this person sincere in what they're saying but wrong, or is this person knowingly lying? And we've caught Daniel lots of times by now saying something like citing studies that are being completely misrepresented. And even there, the question is, does he know he's misrepresenting them, or is he just really, really bad at understanding the sources he's citing? Because there's a huge difference there in how you're going to interact with somebody. If someone is bad at understanding and interpreting sources, versus someone just flat out lies about the sources, those are two different kinds of people there. The same thing with Daniel saying that according to the Catholic Encyclopedia, Mary was 12 years old. Okay, you either had the worst reading comprehension in the world, but somehow you're just really bad at reading, and so you interpreted it as saying that, or you're just lying about it like the Dawa guys always do. So I mean, I'm always interested in that, but here, by this point, it's pretty clear this guy just lies. So we are not dealing with. He's more honest about some of the things Islam teaches than a lot of the other Dawa guys who try to cover it up. But make no mistake about it, Dawa is deception, and he is another Dawa liar.
No problems.
Yeah. Somebody said in the chat, Mike, you should change your name here to that person.
Mike, that person. Yeah. Oh, you know what would have been funny if Matt had called him out for not using your name, and then Matt was like Mike Jones, and Danny was like, who? He goes, Mike Jones. He goes, who? Mike Jones. Who? AP, you don't even know what we're talking about.
It's
Matt.
a fantastic scenario.
talking about rap, talking about.
Yeah.
I'll change my tag to he who should not be named.
It reminds me of Monica Lewinsky. Though. It's like that I did not have sexual relations with that person instead of that woman.
That all depends on what your definition of is. That was classic. That was brilliant.
Anyway, I don't know why we have to go there now. It's a complete perversion of David, of course. That's what he goes to.
Culture and Western culture, the children at that age are highly sexually active. That's the reality in the world today. So
Wait, at what age are they sexually active?
11
He
months,
says-
Pete. 11 months.
He
look
says
at-
9.
Wait,
American culture and Western
wait.
sexually active person is going to desire sexual relations.
Before-
They're going to desire to be sexually active. And that is a biological fact. It just doesn't happen at 4 years old. It happens at 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And that's why when we look at American culture and Western culture, the children at that age are highly sexually active. That's the reality in the world today. So you, or I won't say you because I don't know what your views are.
That's true. Like, lots of 9-year-olds everywhere. They keep going around and
Ugh.
having sex
You know-
with each other, like orgies and stuff. It's terrible.
My daughter's 8, and like, it could like, what is he talking about? This is just utter nonsense. Like, there are other families in the church I attend with 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. None of them act like this. No one is struggling with this issue. So what is he? He's just making up nonsense. Like, this is just not a reality.
It sounds like Daniel never leaves the house. He doesn't interact with society, with other human beings. I mean, he lives in America, right? It's not just some guy commenting on America from across the world. I mean, he lives in America, but apparently he never interacts with other humans, so he doesn't know what actually happens. But this is just what he thinks because.
Well, yeah, I mean, he thinks that. Like Christians
If
pee all
outside,
over our
don't
walls.
leave the door.
They pee
Don't don't go outside
Yeah,
the house. Christians pee all over the street.
I know what's going on outside these doors. Christians are peeing all over everything, and there are a bunch of like 7-year-olds running around boning each other because they've gone to puberty. They're all so on. Everyone, stay inside. Stay inside. That's what's
Lock your
going on out
doors.
there.
Lock your doors. Don't go out. Outside, Christians are peeing on the streets.
They're running down the streets peeing.
For the person that I was debating has no problem
The
That
person.
He who shall not be named.
in there being, this laissez-faire attitude towards children 9, 10,
Wait,
11,
he
or
didn't even give
younger.
your gender. He said they're saying. Like you're plural. Like you're.
Well,
he's
it's
giving you pronouns now.
It's very
them.
progressive. It's very progressive and woke of Daniel to not assume my gender.
Woke Daniel.
So at least he's
Woke.
being more respectable about pronouns. Maybe he now is all for the woke agenda and wants to respect pronouns, I guess. Like,
Yep,
he's
Daniel
not gonna
goes
assume
full
my
woke.
pronouns.
Daniel goes full woke. Adopts pronouns for his opponents.
Being active with sexual dating, going to prom, going to these
So is this true, Michael? What he just said?
Go back.
children in you, because I don't know what your views are, but the person that I was debating has no problem in there being, this laissez-faire attitude towards children 9, 10, 11, or even younger, being active with sexual dating, going to prom, going to these
A lot
kinds
of 11-year-olds at prom.
dances, boyfriend, girlfriend, fornicating. That is all allowed. So you don't have a
So
Who shows up? Who shows up to prom with an 11-year-old? I've never heard of that before.
Is this true, Michael?
Wait,
So,
this is like this is going. Everything is going back to like Daniel's fantasy about what's going on outside the walls
Yeah.
of his room. It's like
Outside
there's all these 9-year-olds graduating high school and going to prom and promoting each
younger.
other. That's why we have
And
to
younger.
bury them off.
He said and younger. So
And younger, yeah.
And 7-year-olds going to prom and having orgies there or something like that. That's what he's imagining.
So-
What in the world? Are you in favor of letting people just do these things, and are you in favor of people just going around and having sex at the age of 9 or younger with each other and all of that? Is this true, Michael?
Well, you might be surprised to hear, but no, I am not in favor of any of this, and this is just
As
a
you
bold-faced
said,
lie.
as you said in your debate with him, you were just saying you don't think they should be punished for all this stuff as far as like sending
Yeah,
them to prison and stuff.
And he does the same thing in this debate with Matt, because Matt, this comes up right after this, where Matt is like, I don't think we should make laws against 9-year-olds having sex. But Matt clarifies and says, but I don't think 9-year-olds should be having sex. But Daniel's logic is you either want 9-year-olds thrown in prison to prevent them from having sex, or you want them. It's this utter false dichotomy that he always throws out.
He is the absolute king of the false dichotomy.
If you're
It's
against
you
child
either want the leftist dystopia or the Sharia dystopia. There are no other options. Those are the only two options. Pick one dystopia, and you can't say no. I don't want either dystopia. I don't want either of those dystopias. No, it's one or the other. Pick one.
Yeah, and it's like if you don't want child marriage and 9-year-olds being thrown in prison, then you're going to go on the slippery slope, which is a fallacy, and you're going to be in favor of everything else on the far left. And that's just he does the same thing to Matt. It's the same stupid logical fallacy that we've seen before from him. And that's why he's accusing me of this, because in his mind, because I reject child marriage, and I don't think 9-year-olds should be thrown in prison for having sex or engaging in any sexual activity because they can't consent, they don't know what they're doing, because I don't think they should be thrown in prison for that. Therefore, I'm in favor of it happening. And so that's where his reasoning is coming from. It's so ridiculous.
This is a very typically legalistic Islamic way of looking at things, where if you are against something, then that means you have to punish it. You have to punish it severely, and you have to lock him up. If you don't do that, then that means you're not against it. And what has gotten into you? You're supposed to be against it. You're supposed to lock him up. You're supposed to put him in jail. You're supposed to torture them. If you're not doing that, then that means you are okay with it. And indeed, you yourself would engage in it, and you would promote it. That's what he is doing the whole time. And this is a very common thing that many other Muslim apologists will also do. And it is they don't seem to understand that is not how reality works. You probably don't want little kids to go and start doing all kinds of weird things with each other. That does not mean that you believe the state should step in and pick them up and put them in prison. There are different means of doing that, right?
It's like, what sort of authoritarian dystopia does Daniel want to create in the world? Like, I've always said, a lot of Muslim apologists want to drag us back to the ethics of the 7th century and leave us there. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't want adultery to happen. I don't think people should be cheating on their spouse. But are we going to make laws that anyone who commits adultery is thrown in prison? I mean, think of the dystopian nightmare of that. I mean, the prisons are already overflowing with people. We're just going to start throwing everyone in prison now for committing adultery. Some things the law just cannot handle. This is why we separate politics and ethics. There's overlap, obviously, but politics, the law cannot cover all of morality. We can't punish someone from the law every time they tell a white lie, for example, even though lying is immoral. Like, you get the fact that he doesn't understand the difference between ethics and politics just says a lot about the dystopian nightmare that he would want to unleash upon the world if he actually had any power.
I'm just imagining some guy masturbating at home, and then immediately the police comes and kicks in the door.
We turned on your iPhone camera. We saw what you were doing. We have come. 6 months in prison. Chop off his hand. You can never do that again. So many 13-year-olds walking around without hands. They're trying to figure out, how do I do it with the other hand? Because they chopped off his hand. What are we gonna do? And then some guy's like, listen, I got really good with yoga. They took both my hands, but you use your feet.
Problem, or people who are scoffing and laughing, they don't have a problem with 9-year-olds having sex. They just have a problem with the idea of a 9-year-old getting married. That was the point of that debate, and we don't have to rehash it.
Well, I think, Mike Jones, if you're watching, I think Daniel just suggested that you're okay with 9-year-olds engaging in sexual activity, and I want to verify that, because if that is true, if that's true, Mike, you're as repugnant as Daniel is. But
Mike, shame on you. Shame on you. Let's hear this again.
Daniel just suggested that you're okay with 9-year-olds engaging in sexual activity, and I want to verify that, because if that is true, if that's true, Mike, you're as repugnant as Daniel is, but I don't think that's true.
So do you think we
shame on you, Mike?
He started speaking to you directly in the middle of a debate. That's funny.
I was drunk.
Just like Muslims speak directly to Muhammad during the prayer.
9-year-olds dating?
I was driving to the airport at that point on my way back home, and I had to stop the car and go, wait, did they just talk to me directly? So I put a tweet out going, well, to answer your question, Matt, no, I don't think 9-year-olds should be having sex.
You know, it would have been funny if you were like in the area and you like ran over there real quick and like they're talking, all of a sudden you pop up. Ah, hey, just so you all know, you can answer their question live. That'd
He's
be
a
awesome.
liar.
What counts as dating?
What if a 9-year-old wants to have sex with another 9-year-old boy? Do we have laws? Should we have laws that prevent that?
This isn't about.
Should
whether
we?
or not-
Oh, now it's not about 9-year-olds. Okay.
I'm sorry. Do I get to answer your question?
Yes,
or
please
are
answer.
you going to
Are you in
ask it
favor?
and answer?
Are
it?
you in favor of laws that would ban a 9-year-old girl from sleeping with a 9-year-old boy? Yes or no?
We don't have
Yes
law.
or no?
How can you possibly argue with a person like that?
Okay, one more time, since you're going to do the yes or no thing. Like, one more time with the question. Am I in favor of laws that would ban that? No.
Okay. So you don't have a problem with 9-year-olds having sex?
That's
Notice.
all-
If you don't want, if you don't say there's a law, you have no problem with it. If you don't believe that tossing them in prison or something like that should be part of the law, then you think it's okay and it's totally fine.
If you don't think that 13-year-old boys should have their hand chopped off for masturbating, you are in favor of them transitioning and having orgies every week. I mean, like, how could you, Matt? I mean, obviously.
You want them. It's basically you either chop their hands off or you're supporting OnlyFans.
I feel like I don't know, but there is I don't think Daniel Pikachu is that stupid. I don't think that he is this
I don't know.
exceptionally
He's
stupid.
pretty consistent. He's extremely consistent with the black and white thinking. So he's consistent with that. He's extremely consistent with the slippery slope fallacy. He's the all-time king of whataboutism. So if anyone actually thinks like this, it would be Daniel. Like, I mean, his brain just seems wired.
Okay, here's the thing.
for
I
this
want to ask
thinking.
you. I want to ask you a question. Both of you a question. Maybe the audience too. If somebody does this over and over again and still doesn't understand it, and being answered by Mike during the debate, and even by Matt now, still doesn't understand the difference here, and still insists, oh, so you're not for punishing them? That means you are for it. That would strike me as a rather stupid person, somebody who can't think, who can't understand a little bit of nuance here. And I want to ask you guys, because I have my view on this. Do you guys believe that Daniel Pikachu is actually that stupid?
I believe he is
I don't-
that illogical. You could be smart in certain ways and still very illogical in certain ways. And so I
mean,
think that's him. Your brain could be turbocharged in certain areas, and you could be extremely bad with other issues. Like you could be like a literary genius and terrible at math. Well, you could be smart enough to assemble a bunch of sources and have lots of debates and so on, and nevertheless you're just, I mean, it seems like he's just wired for this black and white thing. It's this or this. It's the only possibilities. It's I don't know. I think he in other words, I think he is like that.
Well, I would say I don't think he's very equipped well in philosophy. I mean, like when I got my master's in philosophy, we spent time. Classes were basically often group discussions, and you go back and forth, and they're trying to teach you how to think philosophically, and you learn like how people talk in the real world, and you start picking out logical fallacies. So when I watch these debates, I'm often like, yeah, black and white fallacy. Yeah, that's a slippery slope. Oh, that's an ad hominem. That's what I sort of do in these debates now when I'm listening in. And just Daniel just seems like he doesn't really know a lot about philosophy, how to think philosophically. Or another possibility is he's doing these extreme things to push people's buttons, because that's what he wants to do. Like, if you are against 9-year-olds being punished for being sexually active, then you must be in favor of it. And he might be doing that on purpose just to push buttons. So he's either being intentionally sleazy in how he does this, or he's just he's not philosophically minded, and he does poor philosophical training, honestly.
And by the way, notice the hypocrisy here. Daniel, when he's defending wife beating, he's like, okay, if your wife gets out of line or is doing something wrong, who would be better? Who would you want to punish her? Would you want the state to punish her, or would you want her husband who loves her to punish her? Therefore, it's better for the husband to be doing the punishing because it's not some, distant entity, uncaring entity or something like that. He's someone who actually cares about her. So notice, applying that exact same logic to this situation. If your 9-year-old started having sex with another 9-year-old or something like that, it would seem like you would want the parents dealing with that situation and taking steps to deal with the situation, rather than sending the kid to the government to be punished by the criminal justice system. And yet he's saying, hey, if you don't want the think about this. He's saying if you don't want the criminal justice system taking over and doing it, then there are no more rules. It's anarchy. And
Yeah,
yet he himself believes in beating your wife and not having her judged by the government. So wait a minute, what happened? What happened to a husband loves his wife more than the government does, and therefore the husband should be the one disciplining his wife? Why wouldn't that exact same reasoning say, okay, if your child is has started having sex at a young age, you should be dealing with that and figuring out how you're going to handle that, and not the government, which doesn't actually care. But the government does step in if it's like a 20-year-old having sex with a 9-year-old, then okay, now we got to deal with this guy. But they're not going to punish. They're not going to.
Oh, he froze.
Oh no,
We
David
lost
died.
him. But yeah, just to carry on what he's saying, he's right. Daniel's being inconsistent here. He wants the state to punish children for having sex, but he wants a husband to punish the wife because he doesn't want the state involved because he thinks it's bad. So he'll just use whatever argument he can in the debate to try to score points. But that's typical Daniel Kikuchi. He's just trying to score points in this, but he'll use these inconsistent arguments. And I've seen it on my debate prep with him. So I've always wanted to ask him: does he think a wife should be able to punish her husband if he's acting out of line? Like, what would he say to that? Like, why does the husband?
How dare you suggest that?
Well, I mean, they're supposed to be equal. I thought that was a basic human right of equality. I don't know. That's so weird of me to think.
There's
but-
no such thing.
Yeah.
It is what the Quran makes it very clear that a husband and wife have rights over each other, but the husband is above the wife, the woman, the wife.
That sounds like Orwell. Everyone's equal, but some are more equal than others.
Yes, some animals are more equal than others, but it's like and it specifies that men are in charge of the women, and if women become too arrogant, or if they fear arrogance from the women, then they may beat the women. That is the bad thing, right?
And it's honestly, I think I've said this before, but Daniel's argument is a little stupid because if you've got a domestic dispute, you should want someone who's not emotionally involved to settle it. Why does the husband who's emotionally involved get to make the decisions? It should be that you have an outside person, like a judge, come in and go, okay, what's the conflict here? What did she say? What did he say? Who hit who first? Kind of thing. Because
What's going on here?
that's typically what happens when there's two people fighting. Someone steps in who's a neutral party and goes, all right, stop it. But in Daniel's world, the dystopian nightmare he'd want to thrust upon us, men would be able to just take charge and do whatever the hell they want, and you'd have a high increase of spousal abuse and these emotionally charged husbands acting on emotion. It'd be horrible.
Yeah, David just told me that he has internet problems. He
Amateur.
said internet has been having problems today. Have to restart modem. We'll be back soon. Okay. We have to wait for David to come back. David's gonna come back soon. Yeah. Yes.
He's gonna leave me in this room with his atheist. The guy might charge me. I've seen it happen on camera before.
Yeah.
He might just
You can't trust
reach through the
atheists.
camera.
Atheism
Come
is
at me.
terrorism.
That's why every week they do that jihad report and cover all the atheists around the world.
Count Buka just became a member of the channel. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the membership. Welcome to being one of the followers of the final messenger, final prophet. Oh, I saw you. Oh, no, you changed it. Earlier,
I was the other
final
final messenger, and then now he who should not be named. So,
Okay. So we'll just go on without David for a little bit. If he's restarting his modem, that might take a while, maybe 5 to 10 minutes or something. So unfortunately, we have to forget about David now and move on without.
And that, no.
Okay, so you don't have a problem with 9-year-olds having sex?
That's a lie, and you are the most dishonest person I've ever engaged with. You just forced me to answer yes or no to a question about whether or not I would advocate for a law. And then when I said that I would not advocate for the law, you suggested I don't have a problem with it. I have massive problems with it. You're the one that doesn't have a problem with it.
Apparently
which is
not
why
enough
this
to
is the
suggest
only
legislation.
debate we are ever going to do. And I don't care if you lie about my views. Don't fuck kids.
So tell the people in this.
Pretty clear. You want to say anything about this?
Oh my! It's the fault. If you don't want a law against children having sex, you're in favor. Like, what sort of nonsense? Like, again, I agree with David. I just don't think he is very philosophically minded, because this is just a clear slippery slope fallacy or a black and white fallacy. It's like, do you even think beyond that? Like, and again, he should be in favor of laws where, like, you know, if a woman acts out against her husband, she should be thrown in prison. The husband should not be taking matters into his own hands. But isn't he in favor of wife beating? So, which is it, Daniel? You're now contradicting yourself from your prior conversations and lives and debates and all this stuff. Which is it? Do you want a law? Does people got to step in and punish? Or should the husband be the one who's taking care of this stuff? Pick a side, because you're inconsistent.
Yeah. Bradley Smith said, "Is this live or premiered?" This right now is live. Hope you can tell. I don't know. It is definitely live. And by the way, Derek, Myth Vision Podcast is here. Derek, what's up? Dude, I think Christians and atheists can say amen to Matt Dillahunty on that one.
Yes, I'm doubly mad at Daniel, because not only is he just a horrible human being, he made me root for Matt Dillahunty. Like, how dare you? Like, I was just like, get him, Matt. Like, I couldn't believe I was like, in his corner on this one. I thought I was going to be like, well, I disagree with Daniel and Matt, but I found myself consistently far more in Matt's corner, even in the earlier part where they were debating if God exists, because Daniel's arguments were just atrociously bad. Like, he can't even use like a contingency argument or a moral argument. He's just like, well, people around the world think God exists. That's evidence he does. I'm like,
well, what else are you going to do? I believe in nothing, and then, I'll be depressed. No, you all have the intuition that there is something out there, so why don't you just believe? That was, seriously, that's how you're going to go to a debate on on beliefs? That is just ridiculous. But yeah, Derek said, I think Christians and atheists can say amen. Amen and a woman, as that one congressman once said in the cringiest way possible. I still have nightmares thinking about that.
I'm marking at 2:33. Okay.
Yeah. So I just want to make this clear. So Daniel, I can't believe that he doesn't understand this. It's just hard for me to believe. But maybe it is true, because I don't think Daniel is a particularly stupid individual. I don't think he's a stupid human being. I think he is quite intelligent in different ways, and he should understand this stuff after thinking it through a little bit, or after having a few discussions with some people who think differently. If he keeps on insisting on, well, if you don't advocate for this law, then that means if you are for it, then that means you allow it. Then this is a very stupid way of thinking, and he either really is incapable of ever understanding that, or his intelligence is capped and limited because of his emotional and fanatical, attachment to these hardcore fundamental Islamic values that he wants to prefer over his own intellect.
I think if you want, like, I watched his series Genius of Islam, which is ironically doesn't have a lot of genius in it, or a lot of Islam.
So stupid.
It's like Genius Islam. He never talks about Islam or the genius of Islam. I'm like, what? Like, it's just him bashing like secular humanism or liberalism the whole time, and it's like the whole time I'm just like, okay, when do we get to the Islam part? Like, but like in that, it's the whole thing. It's like his argument is like, if you reject Islam, even like not only if you just reject it, if you're leaving like Javad Hashmi, where you're like a modernist Muslim, who's far cooler than Daniel by far, but if you just reject his super ultra traditional view of Islam, you go one step to the left of that, you start sliding down the slippery slope, and you're a secular humanist, you want to eat bugs and live in pods and have pleasure machines, and you're allowed to transition kids, and like that's his argument. So like his whole shtick that he builds around is like it's either his view or you slide down the slope, and that's just utter nonsense on so many levels. But that's why he's constantly doing this false dichotomy, because I think in his mind, I could be wrong about this, but in his mind, I think that he thinks if he goes one small step to the left, he's going to slide down the slope, and he'll just be to the left of like people like Matt Dillahunty or like the far left as we know it today, which is just not true. But that's how I think that's where he's coming from.
Yeah, I think he's an ultra crepidarian, as Dr. Yasser Knadi wants us to call people, because he likes to use words that nobody ever uses anymore. Apparently that makes him cooler and intelligent, all that. I just want to clarify. By the way, David just told me his internet is down and he'll come back once it starts working again. Because the terrible stuff that we're dealing with.
Tell him to just go on his phone or something. You know,
I just did, but he probably doesn't know how to do that.
Good point. I didn't think of it like that. I forgot how much he hates technology and changing his ways. Like he's still using like these old streaming services where like I can't even share my screen on his channel. He's like, you got to email me everything so I can put it on. I'm like, dude,
I know. Every new piece of technology is like, how does this work? What is this? What is this magic? He doesn't know. He can't figure it out.
See, that's what happens when you reject Islam. You can't work technology.
But I just want to make clear to Daniel Hikikichu, I don't think that he actually pays attention. I don't think he cares. I don't think he will even try to understand. But I just want to make it very simple. You can be very much against 9-year-old kids or 11 or 10-year-old or 12-year-old kids having sexual interactions with each other, but you don't have to. Because of that, you don't have to advocate for laws which ban those kids and also punish them if they do it, or which put them in prison, which put them in jail, whatever it is. For example, I can say I find it absolutely wrong for 9-year-olds to start engaging in sexual activities before they even understand what it is and what it means, which, by the way, is a very rare thing. Daniel apparently thinks that happens everywhere all the time. 9-year-olds having sex with each other all over America. But there are different ways you can tackle this. You can handle this, such as adults preventing such a thing from happening, stepping in. And educating these people once they notice that something really messed up is going on, which never happens. By never, I'm being hyperbolic. Contrary to generally Kikuchu's idea that is happening everywhere in America, you could step in and fix it in different ways. That being against laws or not advocating for laws to punish those kids does not mean you are okay with kids actually doing it. There are different ways of handling these things.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when I'm bored, I like to listen to Daniel talk about the way he thinks like Christians, Jews, or atheists act, and it's just like the biggest like ridiculous caricature. Like you never ever hear like atheists wake up and they just pee all over the walls, and then they go down to their 9-year-old and go, "It's time for you to transition from boy to girl and start having sex." And then the moment you suggest marriage, well, they don't even want that; they just want to ban marriage. Like it's like you're reading like Muslims in caves writing comics about what they think happens in the West. Like it's the most ridiculous satire. But some of his fans just eat it up, and it's like, do you guys like ever go outside and talk to people? Like this is just not the way people are.
Of course not. I think Daniel's average fan is. I don't want to put them down and try and talk badly about them, but are often people that are very frustrated, very angry, don't have much experience with society, with other people, especially with non-Muslim people, I would say. It doesn't seem like he is talking to a very informed, very socially capable, very interesting, very I don't know, not a very bright audience overall. He's trying to appeal to those who would otherwise, if they weren't too lazy and too awkward, they would go and fight for some terrorist organization but they can't do that because they're too shy, so they just sit down and listen to Daniel Kikachu. That's what it looks like. Stop listening to Daniel Kikachu. Daniel, stop lying. Stop being an idiot to people. Stop spreading these nonsensical, dumb ideas. Unless, of course, there is a different motive here. I don't know. I don't really know.
It's really weird. Like, I don't see how this is going to benefit Islam in the long run. I mean,
It doesn't.
It isn't. And I've talked to ex-Muslims that are just like disgusted with this stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm seeing it more. Like, there was a guy I know on TikTok that I helped deconvert from Islam. Now he's a Christian, and so he cites some of this stuff occasionally. I mean, like, I did a live like a week ago on TikTok, and a Muslim came in who was from Albania. He's ex-Muslim and said he's looking for a church now, and a lot of this stuff on my channel helped him leave that worldview. He said he wasn't like a strong practicing Muslim; he just sort of raised it. But yeah, I mean, like this flamboyant anti-intellectual nonsense, like, you know, like the crap I've been dealing with lately, like Muhammad's in the Bible, which is on the level of flat earthism. It's on the level of flat earthism. Like, you're telling me to deny what my very eyes can look at and see. Like, I can see photos from space, the earth is round. I can read Deuteronomy 33. I can read Song of Solomon 5. These aren't about Muhammad. You're telling
You just
me...
don't see it. Muhammad is in the Bible. Of course he's in the Bible.
I
Christians
don't
and
see that.
the Christians and Jews, they all missed it. They don't see it. They don't
You
understand.
just gotta look at it like this. You just gotta do this. And you know, oh, there he is, right there. You know, did I ever tell you I found Muhammad in the Bible? I did.
You did? Where
Found
is
him
it?
in Numbers 22. In Numbers 22, AP, Muhammad is in it. I'll tell you this flat. I'll prove it. In Numbers 22, there is a figure who comes from outside of Israel. Yes, and he prostrates himself before God. He has his mouth opened by an angel, and he speaks miraculously. And the pagan that is around him is stunned when he starts to persecute this talking individual. He's so amazed, but he persecutes him. But even though an angel has opened his mouth and given him miraculous speech, this figure that came from outside of Israel to prophesy, you know who it is? It's Balaam's talking ass. It's clearly Muhammad.
Nice.
Muhammad is Balaam's talking ass. How can you deny all the correlations? And if you think that's crazy, that's what Dawa guys sound like when they tell you that Deuteronomy 33 or Song of Solomon 5 is about Muhammad. They do the exact same nonsense. Like, so yeah, from now on, as long as Dawa guys are going to do that, I'm going to say that Balaam's talking ass in Numbers 22 is really a prophecy of becoming Muhammad.
Yeah, Mario said, don't give him any ideas. They might start using that. It's like, okay, maybe he's not mentioned in the best way, but at least he's there. You know?
I would love that. I would love that. Please, yes, Muslims, use that. Tell us Muhammad is Balaam's talking ass. That's what I want to hear.
Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed took a break here from being an assassin and made a super chat. I'm a fan of the franchise, by the way. IP, AP, and David, my holy trinity. You can't say that. This is very disrespectful. My holy trinity, thank you for exposing all the bullshit and lies that come out of these Muslim apologetics. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Also became a member of the channel. Thank you. Now I have an assassin that I can send after people. Thanks you for joining. I appreciate it very much. AP and David, you should add a room spray to your future merch and call it Islam Repellent with Daniel's picture on it.
That's good.
Good idea. Possibly. Anyway.
Tell the people in this country that are following secular humanism. Tell them they need to hear it more than anyone. Tell the secular humanists who are
Secular humanists, I'm telling you, don't fuck kids and don't advocate for it.
Yeah,
and
maybe
you
they
know what
need
the
to
secular
follow
humanists
that.
say?
Maybe they need to follow
Why
that.
would we do that? We've
Maybe they need to
never
follow
done that.
that.
Nobody's ever done that.
Maybe they need to follow
It's you
that.
that have done that on stage.
The
for
sexual
modern-day
revolution
debates.
that had from a
secular
secular humanist
revolution was
basis
not
has
about
fought-
9-year-olds.
Yes, it was.
No,
Yes,
it wasn't.
You don't know about the Sexual Liberation Front? You don't know about NAMBLA? You don't know about all of
I know
these
about NAMBLA,
movements?
and we've worked
Yeah.
against NAMBLA.
Yeah. Look at the
Unlike you.
theorists. Stop interrupting me, okay? You got it. You got it out.
No,
We got,
the no interruption shit is done when you start
Yeah.
talking about whether or not 9-year-olds should be fucking.
You know,
don't grandstand,
Yeah,
okay? You're not.
Okay.
You know what's ironic is he's talking about the dangers of NAMBLA, but Daniel's the guy that has been promoting Bruce Ryan for years, who's spoken at conferences in the Netherlands that promote pedophilia or pedophilic interaction. Like, Bruce Ryan is the famous psychologist who had this whole controversy where one of his studies was condemned by both houses of Congress because he was saying there's no damaging effects from men having sexual interaction with boys. And that's the guy that Daniel was promoting for years until I called him out on it and said, you've not read these guys' studies, you just read the abstract and assumed you knew what the studies were about. Because Bruce Ryan's in his papers, he's going, like in his big famous meta-analysis that was super controversial, he says like, so girls, for example, they tend to report negative interactions from this type of this sexual interaction with older men. But the boys don't, according to Bruce Ryan. But now, there are so many studies that have counteracted Bruce Ryan and showed that's not the case. Like there was an umbrella study done, I think, in the past few years that showed this. And I've cited it in some of my hangouts. I think when you were on my channel, we cited it there. But so Daniel's attacking Matt here, pulling up NAMBLA. He needs to look in the mirror. He's the one who's been promoting Bruce Ryan for years. So, not directly, but like accidentally, I would say, he's promoting studies that NAMBLA has used. Like in my debate with Daniel, he cited this Bruce Ryan meta-analysis. NAMBLA has used that meta-analysis. Like, that's what's one of the controversial things about it, is that NAMBLA uses it. And Daniel uses it. So it's like, it's just such an ironic point for him to bring up. He's attacking Matt and trying to throw NAMBLA in this, when he's the one who's been on the same side with NAMBLA without even realizing it.
Let's clarify for those who are not aware of what this is and what we're talking about. So NAMBLA is an organization that is an extremely unpopular, very, very, very unpopular, very terrible, disgraced organization that advocates for lowering the age of consent and for basically pedophilia. That's how it's described, pedophilia and pedophilia. And it emerged around the same time that the sexual revolution was, was taking shape and taking place. However, it wasn't supported by the vast majority of people who, for example, went with that movement or who were secularists or humanists or whatever it is. So it is an incredibly unpopular organization. It is an incredibly shady organization with very few members, and in fact they held illegal meetings and were often infiltrated by police and by detectives that took names of people who go there in order to crack down on actual pedophiles. And what Daniel here is doing is, this is what he always does. This is a very good example of what he always does with his fallacies. He tries to discredit entire ideas, entire groups, by going and picking some very unpopular, publicly disliked little movement or little group, little spark somewhere. It says, look at this, you are all this. This is what comes from you. This is how bad you guys are because of that little group there, which everyone among you rejects, but that's nevertheless one of you, so that means you are all just like that. That's what he basically does. Your movement is completely wrong because there's a tiny little group there which nobody likes, but because of the existence of the tiny group, you are all like that. This would be like us sitting here and arguing that some the most messed up groups within the Islamic world, within the Islamic framework, within Islam, would be, could be taken as an example to declare that all of Islam is absolutely horrible because there's this little group among the Islamists that advocate for going out there and killing and brutally raping and maybe eating other human beings. This is just a completely dishonest, deceptive, nonsensical tactic. It's a fallacy, and it's a clear sign of very, very bad faith debate on Daniel Kikichu's part.
Yeah, if you want, I got the study. You can put it up there, and I'll just show what study Daniel has cited. This is a study that NAMBLA has used, and Daniel used in my debate with him. This is the famous meta-analysis.
Oh, wait. David, what's up? Hey.
Oh, he's back.
I'm shocked. I'm at 0.08. I'm on my phone right now. I'm at 0.08. Anyway, been having internet problems here. It's usually in the middle of the night when no one notices except me because I'm up. But yeah, this time it went out now, which sucks because I was in the middle of a live stream and my wife was in the middle of an online class. But
you were in the middle of a live stream?
Oh, okay.
Nothing.
Yeah. How's this work? How's this work? By the way, I can't tell on my phone here.
I mean, it's okay. You just need to stop waving your phone around. Like, see if you can set it somewhere and just sit it there like this.
It is stuttering. The video is kind of lagging badly, but the audio seems very okay. But it does look like there is a lag in the audio where you hear what we are saying a little bit later.
Hence me saying I shouldn't go on because I have a bad internet connection, and you saying no, do it anyway.
Yeah.
I have the actual text from you saying no, come on anyway.
You will use it as proof. No.
Don't you think that this is going to be a distraction that I should therefore wait until the internet starts working again?
No, you shouldn't wait. It's pretty.
Okay, I'll just hit it.
It's quite okay. We can. I just noticed that there is no big discrepancy in the audio transmission either, so everything is cool. Because you have no experience. Since that excuse has crumbled, what else are you going to say? You're finished, boy. You're finished, boy. Wait.
You see, Allah has punished your internet connection.
Yeah. Okay. So Mike.
He brings up NAMBLA and tries to associate NAMBLA with Matt's views, but this is a study that Daniel Akiichu has cited and NAMBLA has cited. Daniel cited this in my debate with him as evidence that child marriage should be allowed, but Daniel did not read it, because if you go down to the conclusions, and I went through and highlighted as much as I could when I was going through, because I actually read this study, unlike Daniel Akiichu, but
He read the
abstract.
abstract. Yeah.
He probably did. Yeah, he says, in general, findings from the current review suggest that socio-legal definitions of child sexual abuse have more scientific validity in the case of female children and adolescents than for male children and adolescents, given the higher rate of unwanted negative experiences for women. So he's using this argument, this paper here, to argue for child marriage, and they're saying that women have negative experiences from sexual relationship with older men when they're being abused. And Ryan's argument is that the study authors here is that the boys don't report negative interaction. So this is why NAMBLA used this study. They cherry-picked this one study because so many other ones found negative interactions for boys and girls, but NAMBLA cherry-picked the study. Daniel cited it, but at least NAMBLA read it. Daniel didn't even read it, and yet they're on the same page citing this paper that they cherry-picked.
This is very funny. It's Daniel Akiichu basically discrediting others and equating them with NAMBLA, but then it is him who actually engages in their very tactics, and probably unknowingly. He's not that good with sticking to the actual paper and reading it. As he pointed out before, he reads the abstract and then makes up his opinion about what the research paper actually says without reading the paper itself, and that's just. Maybe he can't read very well. I don't know what else to say.
I don't know. I would. Man, there's an umbrella study that was published recently that included this meta-analysis and like numerous other meta-analysis and said no. Typically, boys and girls have negative interactions and have mental disorders from these types of interactions. They just will note that typically, if the child gets counseling and they go through therapy, it's very unlikely to be permanent damage unless it's severe. So that's at least a good thing. But Ryan's paper has been criticized by a lot of people. If you read Anna Sattler's book, Predators, another thing I read in preparation for my debate with Daniel, she notes that this study that I'm looking at on the screen right now has been heavily criticized by other psychologists for limited data, methodological issues, and again, just cherry picking. So, but again, this is the standard of evidence you get from like organizations like NAMBLA or Daniel. I mean, it's pathetic.
It is pathetic. Okay, let us continue.
Oh,
did
we lose
David
him again?
just died again.
Amateur hour.
David is dead. David is dead. Would you have Thomas Alexander? Who is Thomas Alexander? Would you have Thomas Alexander? I don't know who Thomas Alexander is.
I haven't heard of him either.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Nobody knows. All right.
Some hero here.
grandstanding
You're not
much
some
as I
hero
want.
here. Wow,
I'm the
amazing.
guy
Wow.
that's here debating
Oh,
and trying
amazing.
to
You're
secular
so, you're so heroic, man.
and you
You're such
want
a
to
hero.
fuck kids.
No, look at this guy, man. Look at perverse. Look at your sick mind. Okay. Let's
My
you,
sick mind.
Why is Matt the one that has a sick mind when he says don't have kids? Because you are the one advocating for marrying and having sex with little children. What in the How is he the one who has a sick mind?
Well, everything is backwards in Islam. That's the only logical explanation here. You have a sick mind if you want to sleep with adults. Maybe it's you should be. You know, remember after my debate, Daniel was actually advocating. He cited this paper. He cited a graph he found on Reddit that we exposed on my channel. It linked to a paper. He was trying to argue that men are just naturally attracted to 13 and 14-year-olds. These are the ages they just naturally pick. And then you and I on my channel looked at that graph and went to the actual study. And the study didn't actually say that. It said the opposite. But Daniel didn't even look at the study. He just found a graph of the study, and he tried to argue that men are just naturally attracted to 14-year-olds. So maybe in Daniel's mind, he thinks that it's sick and perverted if you're not attracted to a 14-year-old. Because that's what he was directly advocating for in those live streams we were doing back and forth.
Yeah. Imagine we're having a discussion here. Let's just dumb this down and make it very simple. We're having a discussion. This guy comes and says, so I think it should be completely acceptable for 50-year-old men to marry and have sex with 5-year-old girls, or let's say 9-year-old girls once they show signs of puberty. And I then say, what? Don't F kids. And you're like, what? Look at this guy's perverted mind. Like, what is it?
That's what basically just happened here.
Wow. This is ridiculous. It's like a parody. This can't be real.
Fine. How about we talk about
my
your
sick mind?
You want to talk about
The
your personal?
liar advocating for
You wanna
child
talk about-
marriage and sex is talking about
Look.
my sick mind
No,
while
no, look at
inventing
this,
a
man.
fantasy.
Come on,
of
James.
secular
Some moderation here.
Come on. Okay.
Just shouting
I'll
the
shut
F
up.
word is not an argument. Just shouting
Correct.
the F word.
And neither is saying we
Okay.
should let 9-year-olds marry.
Yeah. So we don't need to talk about personal life, okay?
Okay,
You don't
get
need to
back
make any accusations against me.
get
I don't
back to
talk
the
about your
question then.
boyfriend, so don't talk about me. So the thing about this whole argument,
Is there any other part that you want to go to, or should we just continue?
We could go to his lovely pleasure machine. Like that's his whole entire opening statement for this section of the debate. His whole Daniel's opening section is him going on for like 10 minutes about how this fantasy world where like these people make a pleasure machine and everyone wants to get the pleasure machine, but Muslims are going, no, we don't want the pleasure machines because they're ruining families. Like
That was
it is
I watched it live, and that was a cringy, stupid thing that he thought.
it was pure cringe. It was pure unadulterated cringe. It's not been altered by any sort of additives or anything. It's like the pure cringe you just get from the ground. It's just, wow, that was something. I kept listening to that part as I'm driving, going, is he ever gonna get to the punchline? Like, we get your stupid story. People will like pleasure. What's your point here? Like, I even as a Christian, like I'm going sitting there going like, this is not helping your case against secular humanism because, like, there's so many things I could just, if I'm trying to steal me on the secular humanists, they're going to disagree with this scenario because
I also heard him say before something like that if you eat an unlimited amount of candy and nobody stops you, then you will get sick and you will die. You know, and that's what liberalism basically is. It's just unlimited pleasure, unlimited candy. If you eat it all, you will die. You have to have a limit. Are you dumb, man? I just don't.
Yeah.
This is a summary of how Daniel Kikuchi thinks. But let us have a listen to it a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, what he's doing is I think, and if I'm trying to be a little bit more charitable, I think he's trying to build up Jonathan Haidt's work about these different moral foundations people have. And typically, liberals tend to focus more on care and harm or equality. It's like they're two things, whereas like conservatives have they have more moral foundations. So they'll focus on care, they'll focus on equality, but also liberty, purity, authority, and loyalty, I think, are the 6. And so liberals just tend to focus more on 2, and conservatives tend to focus on all 6. But that doesn't mean that liberals think that purity and authority are things that should be thrown out of the water. Like if you read Jonathan Haidt, he'll note that when liberals are asked about certain authority figures, they think they should be respected, like teachers, for example, like public school teachers. The children need to respect their authority as a moral foundation. They just tend to focus more on care and equality as moral foundations than these other ones. So Daniel ignores like that whole aspect of this thing and just says, well, that's all that liberals care about. They just want care. They just want pleasure. That's all they really want. And that's just simply a huge straw man. His entire view of Christians or Jews or secular humanists, just utter satire. It's so bad it's comical.
No, you're just being Islamophobic.
To know the value of Life Unplugged. So Pleasure Inc. focuses on the younger.
Okay, where did he start about? Let's see. Where does he start talking about Pleasure Inc? For those who haven't watched this,
it's pretty ridiculous. It's like we should go back to his whole opening statement here. I think it's.
You look for pleasure. People talking about the pleasure machine in the comments.
I mean, like it was like a 10-minute thing. I think he starts it at 2:16, I believe.
Yeah, 2:16. I have it here. By the way, I want to quickly do something here. For those who know Daniel Hikichu, he is somebody who likes to appeal to comment sections, to audiences. He likes to encourage his trolls, send them over, try to make himself look victorious and his opponent ridiculous, and then he picks out comments that he cherry picks and says, "Look at that! Look, even they agree with me." If we want to play his tricks, we should maybe just look at the comment section here and see what the average person here thinks of Daniel Hikichu.
Yeah, it's actually in favor of Matt as far as what I saw in this section here. But I love getting comments like that because like even after my debate, like I remember getting comments like from like who's like I was a devout Christian for 30 years, and after watching your debate with Daniel Hikichu, I'm now a Salafi. Like I've just converted, like on the spot. I was a bishop in Rome serving the Pope himself, and now because of this debate, I have become a Muslim. Like
yeah. Like here's one. Love how Daniel has no problem defending obviously horrible things when he has to pretend the Quran is the truth, but starts crying when Matt points out what he has said.
I guarantee there's some comic down there going like,
Not
I was
Daniel.
an atheist.
Yeah.
I was a transgender atheist, and now I've converted to Islam. Like,
But
you'll see those
here's
in
what
here.
people think. Daniel getting angry at someone in the public laughing about his ridiculous arguments. He did start fighting and calling out people in the audience because they were laughing at him. And he started fighting with the audience, which is the dumbest thing that you can do in a public debate. Either Daniel is playing a character or he is seriously misinformed. The amount of absurdities he spewed throughout this entire debate is laughable. Daniel Hikichu is the king of making false equivalences. You support forcing children to go to school, therefore forcing them to marry is fine. Apparently giving the child an education is the same as forcing to marry a 6-year-old. Daniel looked so proud of himself that he got that jab in about art, and he must have been sitting on it for a while. It's funny how those who claim how moral they are turn out to be the worst among us. I've never seen someone in my life strawman more than Daniel. That was an absolutely incredible display of strawman. Bravo. So the comment section, Daniel, since you care so much about public opinion, about so much about what people apparently allegedly say about the debaters, here, this is what the comment section thinks about what you are doing, about your performance. I'm sure everything is going according to plan here. Yeah, anyway.
Well, there was a comment I saw. I went and just found it. Apparently, someone said, "I can't believe he suggested that not only Mike Jones but also Matt Dillon is okay with kids having sex when he was the one literally arguing for it in the debate." What a POS!
Yeah.
You can't blame Matt for getting spicy. I'm like, yeah,
I can't believe he
yeah.
suggested it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I laughed in the car because I'm like, no, this is ridiculous. Like, you can't. If you buy this crap, I'm sorry, you're not a critical thinker. I mean, like, clearly he's one who's advocating that, but he wants to pretend we are. Like, come on. This
is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. He is dishonest, and I don't know. I just, for every single time that I or anyone else said that Daniel is at least honest, I regret it. I take it all back. He's definitely not the honest one here.
Well, thanks for that opening, Matt. We'll kick it over to Daniel for his 10-minute opening as well.
Oh, he started with that right away, right? Okay.
Daniel,
oh, he does, yeah.
The floor is all yours.
God, this is
so ridiculous. He wrote this out, too. He wrote this out.
Here's a thought experiment. Imagine there's a company called Pleasure Inc., and they invent the pleasure machine. You strap a person in, pull down the virtual reality helmet, plug in a few diodes into the skull that tap into the pleasure centers of the brain. You pull the switch and then pure unadulterated bliss. The brain implants and the VR are so powerful that any pleasurable experience you want to have, you can have it. You can satisfy basic bodily pleasures, but the tech is so advanced that you can simulate any desire. You want to vacation on the beach with supermodels? No problem. You want to travel the world and sample cuisine from every region? No problem. Every form of pleasure and entertainment is now at your fingertips. The pleasure machine comes on market and is heavily advertised. People start using it for recreation on the weekends, but the machine works too well. People can't get themselves off of it. Eventually, pleasure machine users are strapped in for 10, 15, even 20 hours a day. They can't stop using it. The constant supply of dopamine is too much to resist. Before the pleasure machine, people had time for their extended families. People would get together with aunts, uncles, cousins. If you had elderly parents, you would take care of them. If you had grandparents, you could spend time with them. But as
You know what? During this whole time, I thought, I wish he could hear the live chat here. Since he cares so much about what people
Like
think.
it sounds like it's like the one comment there. It sounds like a Black Mirror episode. Like this is just dystopian. Like do we really think humans are so like this is my problem with like
So
Muslim
ridiculous.
apologists like Daniel is they think humans are so simple and stupid that we just resort to basic instincts or whatever. This is why women have to cover themselves constantly, because if they show a little bit of ankle, the men are going to go crazy and just start raping them. Like it's like maybe sometimes people don't resort to basic instincts and pleasure constantly like we desire the higher purposes. Like you should read Isaiah Berlin on the difference between positive and negative freedom. I mean, like there's a lot more to humanity than this.
It's like those all of those dystopian those stories, those dystopian fantasies that were kind of crafted in the early 20th century. I don't know whether you want to talk about 1984 or Brave New World, or even Animal Farm, which is kind of which is more of an allegorical thing. But when you read those books, they all have what they have in common is they depict an absurdly, insanely dystopian world. And if you sit down and take it literally and think this is what the world could really look like, then that's probably a little bit far-fetched and absurd. But if you take it as just as a story that sends a message but depicts things in an obviously unrealistic way, then you might be getting it a little bit more right. And what Daniel is doing here is he's taking all of that way too literally, and basically sitting down in the early 20th century and thinking, oh, think about a future where humans will have no social life anymore. Nobody will talk to each other. Nobody will interact with each other because there is this pleasure machine, and they are all hooked to this, and they are consuming to no end. This is what will happen if you keep going with liberalism, if you don't follow Islam. It's just so ridiculously dumb. I mean, people wrote these books over 100 years ago, Daniel, and you're coming up with that now.
Yeah, well, it's just we know that humans actually desire more. Humans desire purpose, family, to be a part of a community. Like this is the like if you've seen that trend happening on TikTok where women are asking men how much they think about the Roman Empire, and men are going like once a day or once a week kind of thing, and women are stunned. And it's like, well, sometimes men have this yearning to be a part of something bigger than themselves, or to sacrifice themselves for something greater than themselves. Not just all about pleasure. Human psychology is very complex. And so I don't think we would live in this dystopian world, because humans are just going to start naturally seeking not the simple pleasures, but the higher pleasures, like purpose and meaning and contact with the sacred and these types of things.
Yeah, why is the comment section talking about Candace Owens? I don't really understand what's happening.
Oh, let's not even get into that.
Candace Owens has no place anywhere here. I wanted to say something more direct, but Candace Owens has me blocked because I told her my actual opinion. So why would you come here and advocate for Candace Owens? Candace Owens is a dishonest, terrible person to look at for information.
Sometimes I get a little jealous of all the people that have blocked you. I'm like, oh, why am I not that cool? Like, I was a little annoyed for a while because, like, you know, you and D Wood and me were all like attacking Tate, And like he blocked you two, but he didn't block me, even though I was. And then finally Tate blocked me, and I finally felt like I was in the club. Like, it was nice.
Yeah, you can never reach my high tier in the club of being blocked by so many people, including Candace Owens. And it's not like it's not like she blocked me because I said something terrible to her. It's just that I pointed out the stuff that Andrew Tate actually did, and her basically promoting him and showing a video, and then she immediately blocked me.
I am all for blocking people if they insult you, if they do character
same.
assassination. Like, yeah, but if you're just like pointing out like the obvious facts, like with Tate, like there's no reason to do that.
Yeah, she is a terrible. I don't think that she has an ounce of honesty. She's just a grifter. She will sell her butt for recognition and whatever it is. And if you think she's a reliable, trustworthy source of information, you need to rethink everything. But anyway, enough about did you want to say something?
No, I stay out of politics, so I don't even know her politics, so I won't even comment on it.
Her politics are whatever some guys who are in her comment section want her to be. That's basically it.
More people get hooked on the pleasure machine. There's no time for extended family. And let's be honest, what's more fun, fulfilling any fantasy or sitting and talking with grandma? As the pleasure machine continues to spread, the whole concept of extended family dies off. People only have time for their spouse and their kids, but even this nuclear family gradually becomes too much of a burden. The only thing that people want to do is to plug themselves in. Over time, pleasure machines get a bad reputation for disrupting families, and sales start to drop. Pleasure Inc. realizes it needs a new strategy. First of all, let's improve the machine so that people don't have to worry about unplugging themselves to eat. Anything the body needs biologically can now be supplied by the machine so that hypothetically you can stay plugged in nonstop. Second, let's get the government to subsidize the machines. We want to make sure that anyone who wants a pleasure machine can afford to get one, even if it takes government assistance.
Sign me up, send me one. Where can I buy it?
This is a
Can I
long
invest
list.
in it? I want to invest in the stock of this.
Ooh, I feel really bad for Daniel's grandma. Like, is this a long way of saying he doesn't want to talk to his grandma? Like, it's really boring, grandma, when we have to talk so much. This whole analogy about pleasure machine, just to make that note, grandma. Could you try to be a little more exciting so I don't have to get a pleasure machine eventually to deal with all the boredom?
If there was a stock for this, I would immediately want to buy it, invest in this. It sounds like a very interesting thing to make
like
a lot of money off, but it's very unrealistic, unfortunately.
I like that Daniel's building up to that if you become a secular liberal, you will eventually be plugged into the matrix. That's what this is all about. You're going to be in the matrix. This is what him and the Tater are trying to stop. The matrix is coming through the pleasure machines here. It's going to happen. And then we'll all be living in the matrix, and then eventually we'll have regular jobs in the matrix and have to do normal things. And so we'll just be back where we were. The cycle will continue.
The funny thing is, the entire time as he was talking about the pleasure machine, I kept thinking, it sounds like he's talking about some sex toys or something.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what is he going on about? What are these fantasies? Like, could you actually make an argument and stop talking about how much great these pleasure machines are? Like,
man, and he actually sat down and put this together, and I thought, yeah, this is a brilliant idea. Wow, let me add this here and that here. Wow, this will make it even more understandable, and this will highlight how bad it really is and how much you should not have the pleasure machine because it is actually bad. This is brilliant. I will convince so many people with this. And the reaction is like, what are you talking?
this is what he thinks. This is what he thinks of anybody who's not a Muslim, that we are just these basic subhuman cavemen that just me want pleasure, me no need anything. Like,
Pretty much.
we have, unless you got Islam, that's all you think about it. It's such a caricature.
Yeah.
Third, more aggressive marketing techniques are needed. People who oppose the pleasure machine say that it destroys marriage, destroys families. Now they're even saying it destroys cultures and religions because maintaining culture or religious traditions requires people to make an effort, to work hard, to make personal sacrifices, not to mention maintain bonds with others. How can you do any of that if you're strapped into a pleasure machine for most of the hours of the day? In the beginning,
This is the strap. Well, I hate when someone comes at me with a strapped-on pleasure machine. Oh man, those are the worst days. I think we should do a commercial where like we take his talk here about it and just like put like sensual music under it, and Daniel's going, "The pleasure machine."
I know it sounds like
He's strapped
like
in
he's
for
advertising.
days.
Yeah, it sounds like he's
Endless
advertising this
pleasure.
thing. It's amazing, amazing. You could take this and make a parody with it. I want to take this whole script of him ranting about the pleasure machine and want to type it to Chat GPT and see what it says.
Yeah, this is a commercial in the
People
making.
use the machine, and then sometimes they'd miss prayers, sometimes they'd miss going to church.
Oh no!
Then they start.
Oh no! They miss prayers. They miss one of the 5 daily prayers. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what the future will look like? Like every Muslim around the world. Oh no!
missing major holidays like fasting in Ramadan and other important cultural rituals.
We can't have that.
So the opponent
just like every Muslim around the world does today anyway. Oh no.
of the pleasure machines now claim that the product not only destroys marriage, family, and culture, but also community and religion. How do we counter that in our marketing? Well, it's hard to deny the accusation, so let's embrace it. Let's tell people that the pleasure machine is actually liberating people from the shackles. Marriage, family, community, and religion are all sources of so much toil and headache.
I just want to add some dramatic Islamic humming music to this.
You know, I know D. Wood has cited some negative effects from Ramadan, but I actually found an interesting study on infant health in India showed that Ramadan leads to low birth weight in girls and boys, like in infants itself. It's actually kind of interesting.
That's good.
Ramadan,
It's an advantage to working out. Otherwise,
yeah, it's kind of scary.
yeah, that's good. It's pretty good. Let's see.
We're 4 minutes into his opening, by the way, and he's still going on about pleasure machines. Like this is his opening statement, ladies and gentlemen. This is him. This is what he thinks is going to be his argument. Oh yes.
Okay, I can't use this one. I already used this one in intro. This, by the way, this is the one. This is without the beat.
You gotta modify your opening so that randomly in your opening you just hear Daniel go pleasure machine.
I wanted to play some dramatic music in the back while he's doing this, or some dramatic Islamic music while he's doing this. But unfortunately, I can't find anything right now. Apparently, I have nothing saved. Terrible.
This is amateur hour.
Amateur hour. Anyway.
Why bother with that when you can enjoy limitless pleasure? The pleasure machine is the great liberator. Furthermore, marriage, family, and religion are the source of so much pain and suffering.
Reach ultimate pleasure with the pleasure.
What is his view of Islamic heaven? It sounds like the pleasure machine.
I know that's immediately what I thought, because he's basically describing what the Islamic heaven looks like. In the Islamic heaven, you go and you sit in a row with all of your Islamic buddies with their beards and their dresses, and you recline on these thrones, and you drink out of these cups. You drink wine. There rivers of wine are flowing. You have your virgins that are specifically made for you, designed for you by Allah, that you have sex with all of them whenever you want. It's just ultimate pleasure all the time, just bodily pleasures.
So it seems like Daniel should be in favor of these pleasure machines because it's just bringing Islamic heaven to earth for everybody ahead of time, so he can get his reward right now. What is he upset about?
He doesn't want humans. He doesn't want humans to steal Allah's idea, because Allah is already. Allah has the pleasure machine, and he's going to make everyone have it in heaven.
That's what this is. He's advertising for Islam right now about the pleasure. Guys, join Islam. You get a pleasure machine when you die. Come on, join Islam. Think about how wonderful this is.
Join Islam and reach ultimate pleasure with the pleasure machine. Pleasure life is
opening statement I've ever heard from any debate ever.
Pleasure like you have never experienced it before. You will get it right here in Islam. Ultimate pleasure.
Who doesn't have conflict with parents? Who doesn't have an insensitive spouse? Who doesn't feel judged when going to church or the mosque? To make matters worse, these institutions are also rife with abuse. There's domestic abuse, child abuse, abuse in the church and the mosque. Also, these institutions are rife with unjust hierarchies and inequality and lack of consent. The pleasure machine, on the other hand, is the great equalizer. When you're strapped in, you can enjoy yourself as much as the elites.
Look how excited he is.
Man, he needs to stop saying strap on. I feel like that's a Freudian slip. What is he doing? Like, again, this is just you could just replace pleasure machine with Islamic
Strap on
heaven.
pleasure machine.
It's so gross. Stop saying that term, dude. Like, don't you know innuendo? Like,
Be scared
It's
of the
like-
strap on pleasure machine. It's coming for you. Run away when you see the strap.
you got to stop with that terminology, man. It's not healthy. But like, you could just take his entire opening statement, switch out pleasure machine, replace it with Islamic heaven. It'd be the exact same thing.
I love how Matt is just sitting there and taking it all in.
I can almost hear Matt's thoughts. Like, how did I get sucked into this? When is this over? I just want to go home and not deal with this anymore.
Is the great equalizer. When you're strapped in, you can enjoy yourself as much as the elites. Everyone is equal in the pleasure machine. This is the marketing we need to push through TV, movies, music, books, social media. And if anyone opposes our product, we simply accuse them of being backwards, irrational, and filled with hate. How can you reject separation?
Everyone's equal when I strap on my pleasure machine. I'll comfort you all. There aren't no favorites.
This is so ridiculous, man. Daniel, I don't know if you thought this would go over very well with the audiences, but I think of
guess
something.
we're- Yeah, does he think we would be sitting here going, "Oh yes, it's very inquisitive,
So deep.
This Islamic heaven. I mean, pleasure machine is really a problem that we should not want. I mean, yes. I see. Here, sir. You know,
We should drill it. We should make a book. We should sign a contract and write a book on this. Please write for us, Daniel. Write a whole book about the pleasure machine. Let us turn this into a movie. And we already have some specific actresses and actors in mind for this pleasure machine. It will be very enjoyable. Please let us do this, Daniel.
we are halfway through his opening statement, and he's still going on about his strap-on pleasure machine. I can't even say it.
And equality. Are you a fan of domestic abuse? Are you a fan of child molestation, of white supremacy, of religious bigotry? What are you, some kind of terrorist? Pleasure Inc. realizes that the older generations are going to be wiser and won't be the biggest advocates of their product because they have more life experience and know the value of life unplugged. So Pleasure Inc. focuses on the younger generations with targeted ads on TikTok and elsewhere.
Look at that.
So Pleasure Inc. focuses on the younger generations with targeted ads.
Look at that. Matt has got a look on his face like, are we almost, like, it's the same face I had. Are we almost done with this analogy? Like, did you just get there?
But he's laughing in his head, but he's not letting it out.
Value of life unplugged. So Pleasure Inc. focuses on the younger generations with targeted ads on TikTok and elsewhere. Pleasure Inc. also wants its message of equality and liberation to reach youth in schools. Let's make sure that all schools raise awareness about the benefits of using the pleasure machine and how not using it can cause pain and suffering in life. Adoption of the pleasure machine continues to spread at a rapid pace, and Pleasure Inc. decides to break into new markets internationally. The only problem is many countries are banning the pleasure machine. They don't want their societies being disrupted, their cultures and religions being wiped.
This is so stupid.
Yes,
But thank you for bringing
exactly.
up Good Ink. Totally.
We don't want Islam disrupting our society with your Islamic heaven ideas and fantasies, Daniel. That's why we're banning it. Like, yes. So Daniel now says that the good thing for society to do would be to ban Islam and his Islamic heaven views of pleasure machines. You strap on and go after everyone with, and you know, like again, everything he's saying is just Islamic heaven. I don't get his point here. Like, does he not hear himself? Like,
We don't want your strap-on machine. We don't want it. Get out of here. Get out with it. We don't want it.
Wiped out with the introduction of this technology, but due to heavy lobbying, Pleasure Inc. has infiltrated every level of Western government, and they leverage their connections to pass new international law. The new law is that every nation must allow their citizens to buy a pleasure machine. Not only that, but every nation must subsidize the pleasure machine to make it available to every citizen. This is a moral imperative. Why? Because the pleasure machine, as we know, is the great liberator and the great equalizer. If nations
So in the West, liberalism as an idea took hold very much across the Western world, became established. People started sympathizing with it, personally adopting it, personally thinking, hey, it's a good idea if we establish societies where we leave each other alone as long as nobody harms each other, and where we actually care about happiness, and where we maximize human happiness, and where we reduce human suffering, and where we prevent each other from causing suffering on others. Lots of very reputable, very respectable people turned that idea into a more coherent set of thoughts and wrote books on this. People discussed this in institutions and schools forever. The idea of liberalism became very much entrenched in Western society, but he thinks, no, that idea, that was set up, that idea is all just about pleasure, just giving you pleasure, like a pleasure machine, and denying all kinds of thinking for yourself and all kinds of traditional thought. It's all about pleasure, all about having all these delicious pleasures in life, and it was forced upon society. It was basically people were forced to accept it. What in the hell is this?
Yes, we need Islam force on the society where you are promised pleasure machines in heaven. Yes.
Man, this is just so ridiculous. It's like this guy is so frustrated, so angry at society, because he himself does not enjoy these ideas of others being allowed to live as they wish, because he can't live as he wishes, because he doesn't have what it takes. I guess I don't know what it is, and now he's ranting about it and wanting to impose a system where nobody will ever be allowed to do what they want.
It's really just like, I don't get the whole point of this analogy. Like he's not against pleasure, but at the same time, because again, that's Islamic heaven. Why would it be bad? Like, if a Muslim society decided that we can have pleasure machines, they're just going to be Islamic style, so like no alcohol, but you still get all your virgins now, would that be wrong for them in their understanding of pleasure? From my Christian background, yes, I'd be opposed to these things, because the whole point of Christianity is denying the higher things of life, like purpose and meaning and finding virtue and becoming a virtuous person. But I just don't understand the analogy, because the more you think about it, what is he attacking? He's attacking the Islamic view of heaven this whole time.
Yeah, but it's okay, because in Islamic heaven you are supposed to have ultimate pleasure only, but in this life, not. In this life, you are supposed to find the meaning and then go and have eternal pleasure, then have pleasure forever. Apparently it's okay if it's in the afterlife, because you're supposed to find you're supposed to find the afterlife on here, but it's not okay to have that here in this real world. If you apply it to this world, it's bad. If you apply it to the other world that comes after death, it's good. But that doesn't really that doesn't really work, then, because
this is what happens when you follow Balaam's talking ass. You just show up into these conundrums you can't get yourself out of.
That's not really. So, is such a thing now bad or not, then? Is it now good or is it bad? Like, please decide.
Is he almost done with the analogy? Because again, it's so
No.
long.
Let's see. Yeah, I think it felt like an eternity.
Take access to the pleasure machine. That's a violation of human rights. Every human must have access to the pleasure machine, and only the most evil totalitarian regimes would keep their people under the boot by not letting them entertain every single desire. Despite the new international laws, some rogue nations continue to resist. These nations are portrayed.
By the way, it's very funny that this is how he defends his Islamic societies, which want to implement laws like forcing everybody to abide by Islamic laws, killing those who leave Islam, killing those who engage in adultery, killing homosexuals, publicly torturing people who engage in fornication, publicly banning and fighting those people who want to convert Muslims, enslaving other humans. He's like, that is his response. Like,
So
we
what
should
we
be
were
allowed
learning
to
from
do
Daniel.
those things. If you don't do those things, then you are basically a servant of the evil strap-on pleasure machine.
So what we're learning from Daniel is a dystopian world will be where authoritarian figures force their will upon you with the promise of pleasure machines. Islam, like, I don't know anywhere to put this, Daniel. You're basically showing that Islam is a dystopia.
Yeah. So they should not be allowed to brainwash you into buying the pleasure machine. No, we should be allowed to instead forcibly remove that pleasure machine and force you to abide by Islamic laws entirely and kill you if you resist and torture you and make a public display out of you and enslave you if you resist, so that we can give you the pleasure machine after you go.
Yes, absolutely. That's what it's all about. Just getting that pleasure machine.
Yeah.
Strap it on, baby.
This is absolutely ridiculous, and you sound dumb, idiotic as hell, Daniel.
It is terrorists and human rights violators in the media. The news shows images of little children covered in dirt, little girls crying. Look at these poor suffering children. What kind of evil monsters would prevent these precious darlings from using the pleasure machine?
Whoa. Why does he want to use his strap-on pleasure machine on children? Okay, we've heard enough here, didn't you? I think it's all right. Someone better call the FBI. This is getting kind of scary.
By the way, yes, interesting, but I just noticed what he's referencing here, and it's pretty. I don't know how you would probably call it evil, but what he's referencing here is this. Let me see if I have that on here. Can I play this on here?
Assalamualaikum.
Oh no, that's not it. What was that? There was a clip of Daniel Kikuchu mocking kids in Afghanistan.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Because they are no longer allowed to go to school.
Yes.
And he mocked that. He mocked those girls playing. Oh, I can't go to school.
Here's the funny thing: is he mocked girls for wanting the higher things in life, education, bettering themselves. They should just be submissive in Islam and get their pleasure machine when they die. That's what Daniel wants. He doesn't want anyone to chase the higher things of life, like education or getting a fulfilling career, for example. No, they need to be submissive, just go through the Islamic motions so that when they die, they get their pleasure machine. That's what he really wants.
Yeah. But so this is what's happening here when he says, when he talks about this dystopia where they highlight, sad girls and kids in that Muslim world that doesn't allow the pleasure machine. He's talking about basically about how in today's time in Afghanistan girls are banned from going to school, and there are videos out there of girls crying about this because they want to go to school, and he's making an equation there because he finds it very stupid that people feel sad because those girls shouldn't be going to school. They shouldn't go to school. They shouldn't be allowed to go to school. Women should not go to school. That's what he thinks. Women shouldn't be allowed to go to school because if you send women to school, then you are basically opening the doors to the decline of humanity, of society as we know it, and women end up being whores.
Yes,
That's what he believes in.
You let your daughters start kindergarten. Next thing you know, they're in first grade, and then they're on OnlyFans. It's one step from kindergarten to OnlyFans, ladies and gentlemen. Do not let girls go to school because Daniel knows what's best.
Nation dies off due to starvation. That's a price we're willing to pay to make sure the other half of the population gets access to the pleasure machine. And if these terrorists still refuse, we'll just...
He keeps going. This is his opening statement. Like, he's got 10 minutes. He's been going for what? 7 minutes at this point? And it's all just pleasure machine this, pleasure machine that. Let me strap this on, baby. I'll tell you how great it is. I don't want to spend time with my grandma. I want my strap-on pleasure machine.
Hey, David just noticed that you can leave comments here in the comment section. In the chat.
Yes, it's about time. Where has he been? Freaking amateur, hiding in his internet cave that he lives in or
He
something?
can't figure out how his internet works, and now he's telling us my internet is down.
He's missing so many good one-liners he could be using right now. And
Yeah,
he's not
you
here
should
to
be
enjoy all
you
that.
should be here mocking the pleasure machine, the strap-on pleasure machine, and he's there hiding. You're
Freaking-
hiding.
I mean, I would run too if I saw Daniel with a strap-on pleasure machine. I mean, I would want to leave too. I'd be like, well, I'm getting the hell out of here. I need to go talk to a priest, get some holy water, take. I gotta repent and just for being in the presence of this.
Yeah.
You're sick. You are sick.
I like these.
It's also critical that we enforce anti-extremism laws. The opponents of the pleasure machine
no.
advocate traditional institutions of marriage, family, gender, community, religion. We have to silence these agitators by labeling them as extremist hate mongers that inspire violence. We can put them on watch lists, ban them from travel, maybe even indefinitely detain them on spurious charges.
For those who missed it, what Daniel is here depicting as this dramatic system of persecuting these guys who don't want the pleasure system is basically governments being against people like him who want to establish laws to execute people who leave his religion or who are against his religion. That's what he's pointing out. That's his big deal. He wants countries to be able to apply the death sentence for leaving Islam, for blaspheming, for being gay, and all of that stuff. And he's like, this evil system, it's persecuting us. We just want to kill other people.
That's really what this boils down to. Is his analogy in his twisted brain. He thinks the pleasure machine is liberalism preventing him from murdering gays and sleeping with little girls that they're allowed to marry and then divorce and then remarry, all by the time they start showing signs of puberty.
I just want to have sex with little kids. Why can't they allow me this?
Yeah, but again, as we noted time and time again, his analogy is really Islam, because Islamic heaven is the pleasure machine. And so I don't think he really thought this one out. And it's just so off the wall. Like, you're sitting here going, why would he make up this weird analogy? I thought about it on the plane. I'm like, what was he doing? And it dawned on me, he didn't think it out because it's just Islamic heaven. I cannot even fathom writing an opening statement this cringeworthy. I just can't even.
He's very proud of it.
Now, we don't want to stifle all debate about the pleasure machine, of course. That might make us look too obviously totalitarian. So let's allow people to debate the pleasure machine, but in a controlled fashion.
Yes, Daniel, that's what they are all worried about. They're all worried about looking too totalitarian if they insist on allowing people to experience pleasure. Yeah, they'll think, oh no, if we allow people to experience pleasure, and if we prevent you from banning that pleasure, then we might look too totalitarian. Yes, too totalitarian, even more totalitarian than you, where you want to massacre and kill people for thinking differently.
He wants laws against 9-year-olds having sex. So 9-year-olds are going to be rounded up and thrown in prison, if they start engaging in sort of activity, instead of getting them in counseling and therapy and things that would actually help them. No, lock them up immediately. It's such projection, honestly, his attack on liberalism. And I'm not a liberal. I'm a Christian. There's a lot I disagree with liberalism as a whole. But his caricature of it is just on it half the time. It just feels like projection. His authoritarian just seeps through, and he just projects that onto liberalism.
So
It's
wait,
really
hold
weird.
on. Are you an Islamist? Do you want to establish Islamic laws?
Absolutely not.
So that means you're a liberal.
It must be. There's only two options. Either you want child marriage in an Islamic state where gays are thrown off rooftops, or you are a liberal. There's no other option.
What's also interesting, we didn't even go into this, we're being very fair here, but he talks about secular humanism with Matt Dillahunty lengthily, and he basically he accuses secular humanism of colonizing, of slavery, of of wars, of imposing laws on other nations, and all of that stuff. Everything that is liberalism, everything that is West, the whole Western history, America, everything is secular humanism. And Daniel, do you not know the stuff that you're studying? Do you not know that secular humanism is a specific idea that wasn't even around when some of these nations were colonizing continents?
You should skip ahead to Matt's. The first thing he says after Daniel's opening statement, I think it's like 2 minutes out. Matt actually has a pretty clever response to Daniel's big story of the pleasure machine. It just goes on and on. I think it's at 26.
But the reality is secular humanism is a totalitarian system of liberation and equality that has been imposed.
This is the dumbest thing I've heard about it. A totalitarian system of liberation and equality.
They oppress us by giving us freedom. Like, I don't. But how? Like, quick, give them freedom of speech and Second Amendment rights and no search and seizure without a warrant, and give them the Bill of Rights. That's how we'll oppress them.
That will show them. It will obey us.
They're oppressed by their
human is exactly what secular humanists say to Islam. But the reality is secular humanism is a totalitarian system of liberation and equality that has been imposed on the entire world. It's a system.
It sounds like a parody. What the?
Stop oppressing us with your freedom. I hate it. It's gonna ruin everything.
Secular humanism is a totalitarian system. They force freedom and equality on everyone. What in the world is wrong? Because did you even? He actually wrote that down.
He wrote this on paper, and he
wrote that
looked
line
it
down.
over. He was like, "Yeah, this is great. This is good stuff here. I'm going to say this publicly to thousands of people."
Like, whoa, yeah. Secular humanism is a totalitarian system of liberty and equality. That's a brilliant line. Wow, this will shock the masses, and everyone will see that I am close right.
A system he lives in and benefits from. The only like, if this was so oppressive, how's he getting up and saying this publicly, like attacking all this stuff? If he's being oppressed by liberalism, he can't say this publicly. But by a debate channel,
He's being oppressed right now. He's being oppressed right now, as you can see. He's denying it. He's being persecuted here.
He's such a oppressed.
He doesn't want to be free. He doesn't want to be equal. He's being forced to be equal and free.
They're forcing me to be free. It's horrible.
I don't want to be free. I don't want to be equal.
I want to be a slave to the Islamic State so I can get my pleasure machine after I die.
I don't want to be free. They're forcing me to be free and equal. I hate them. I wish I was a slave.
You can't make this stuff up. I mean, like,
System that gradually, and I emphasize this, gradually destroys basic human institutions like marriage, family, community, religion, and ultimately the human race itself. And whoever resists it is considered a fundamental extremist who must be brought to heel. Islam also cares about individual human happiness. But
Matt's face just cracks
he can't believe he's actually in this debate.
He's just looking at the audience like, can you believe
I got a question for Matt. Matt, when you were sitting there, were you thinking at all, man, I wish I could just debate Christians again. This would be so much better. What if, like, this is just please let me debate Christians again. I can't deal with this nonsense.
It's funny. Matt pointed out just half an hour later or so. This will be the only debate that we will have. Yeah. He absolutely had enough already.
Islam also cares about individual human happiness. But Islam sets limits because there are other institutions and norms worth preserving. Institutions of marriage, family, community, religion, and the human race itself.
Wow, okay.
This is why it is far better than secular humanism.
Here's Matt's response.
Thank you very much for that opening, Daniel. Folks, if you're watching, I want to remind you, DebateCon 4 is coming up this November 4th in Dallas, Texas. You don't want to miss it. Check out the description box for the link for that conference. And if you're from far away across the globe, hit subscribe, as we'll be streaming all of those debates live for the public. With that, we're going to jump into open dialogue. Gentlemen, the floor is all yours.
Oh, I thought somebody said something. Totalitarian regime. I need to call my, well, I don't actually have stocks, but if I had somebody who's managing my stocks, I'd want to call and put in an order on straw and oil, because we are currently out of straw after that straw man and oil after we got pushed down that slippery slope. And what has to be the biggest grandstanding, whining misrepresentation of secular humanism and cancel culture that I've ever heard. Cancel culture, by the way, is the real whine here, but it's not about canceling, it's about accountability. And it seems strange to call secular humanism as, oh, it's just about pleasure and everything else. And if you dare to say something like it's okay to forcibly marry a 4-year-old, they're just going to call you awful. They're going to say, are you a child predator? It's okay. It's okay. We don't need to cancel anything. We don't need to ban the pleasure machine. The pleasure machine will either kill us off, or climate change will, or work out ourselves. So since we're supposed to be having a discussion and I have to ask a question to start with, I'll start with my first question. One of the first questions I thought of, which I thought of before we ever got here. Is Islam encouraging terrorism, or is it just really inept at stopping it?
Wow.
So again, my question for Matt is, do you wish you could just go back to the good old days where you just had to debate Christians and not deal with a Muslim telling you about his strap-on pleasure machine dystopian nightmare? I just wonder if you've thought about this real hard and think that maybe Christianity ain't that bad. I mean, at the end of the day, we can actually have a conversation where we don't have to bring up strap-on pleasure machines.
Wow, I'm kind of surprised that that Matt's response is just, this is the dumbest thing I've heard in my life, basically. But here's a question to you: does Islam cause terrorism, or can it just not stop terrorism? It's shocking to me actually that he immediately went there. He was like, okay, you know what, I'm done. Let's talk about terrorism.
My favorite thing is Matt was like, let me just ignore that idiotic opening statement. It was just nonsense. And let's just have some actual conversation. Like, he tried. He at least tried. Like, let's have a conversation. And I'm not going to talk about your strap-on pleasure machines. Let's talk about something really going on.
Yeah, thanks for talking about the pleasure machine. How about let's talk about terrorism? Wow.
Like,
Okay, let me respond to certain things. Like, if you want to talk about terrorism, okay, the values of secular humanism, like the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of individual happiness, that was the basis of the French Revolution. That was the basis of the American Revolution. That was the basis of...
No, it
Yes,
wasn't.
yes.
What?
The French Revolution was all about secular humanism.
Freaking, like, the American Revolution was not all about pleasure. Like, freaking, like, has he studied anything on, like, the American Revolution and all the sacrifice these soldiers had to make? Like, they didn't even get pay, and they were fighting off the British. Just
Don't
so
lie,
they
it was all about secular humanism.
it was all about pleasure machines. The king didn't want them to have pleasure machines.
Yeah.
And the Americans were like, no, we want pleasure machines. So we're going to get guns and we're going to sacrifice our lives.
I'm going to get my pleasure machine, and the others were like, oh, you can't get that, you know. Not
Yeah,
the
like,
pleasure machine.
the complexity
Like, no, I want
in
my
there.
pleasure machine right now.
Give me liberty or give me pleasure machine.
Oh my, this is just so. Oh, this guy's.
the Communist Revolution, the Decemberist Revolution, all of these revolutions that were explicitly on the basis of reason and improving human happiness on the basis
Not
of
reason.
religion. That is the ideological basis of all of those movements that ended up killing hundreds of thousands of people.
What did he just mention? The Soviets, the Bolsheviks?
Yeah, he lumped in the French Revolution, the Soviet Union, with the American Revolution, like,
Yes, did
which
he
was
just
basically
what the?
like
And
the American Revolution.
hates
It was
it.
like, the motivation for that was Christian values. I mean, if you check out the book Human Rights and Christianity, an Introduction, one of the chapters is on liberty and equality, and notes that a lot of the enlightened ideas that inspired the American Revolution came from they came through Calvinistic thinkers that got this stuff from Calvin and Luther, and then earlier Catholic and Orthodox thinkers. So like all of this stuff was not like coming from like secularism. It came from, they were taking ideas they got from Christianity into Christian history. and then they just exploded in the American Revolution and rejecting divine rights of kings, arguing for property rights and freedom and liberty, these types of things. Like his understanding of history, just to lump in the American Revolution with the October Revolution of Russia is just utter nonsense. Like they would cause an historian to like pull his hair out.
Don't you know the Bolsheviks? They were like, yeah, I want the Tsar is not giving more the pleasure machine. We don't want that the pleasure machine. They are exploiting all of us. We must stand up right now and get the pleasure machine which they don't want to give. Make our own pleasure machine. We want a pleasure machine right now.
That's a pretty good Russian accent.
I hope so.
The communist revolution, the Decembrist revolution, all of these revolutions that were explicitly on the basis of reason and improving human happiness on the basis
Where is my pleasure machine, Bled? Give me my pleasure machine.
of reason and overthrowing religion. That is the ideological basis of all of those movements that ended up killing hundreds of thousands of people. Obviously, you are not going to consider them to be terrorists. That's very convenient for you. But the people who are being killed by these groups did consider them to be terrorists. The regimes that were displaced by these groups did consider them to be terrorists. But the winners are able to write history. You keep bringing up like this point about 4-year-olds. This is like a straw man that was.
And we're back where we were earlier. Right.
Yeah, we all know Lenin was proudly leading the people, the red ones.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you have a choice before you. You can be liberal. There's only two choices according. You've got two choices according to Daniel. You can either A, be a liberal and get your pleasure machine eventually, or you can be a Muslim, die, and then get your strap-on pleasure machine.
Yeah.
Which do you want? Do you want the liberal pleasure machine or the strap-on pleasure machine that Daniel's talking about? There's only two options here, ladies and gentlemen. Which pleasure machine do you want? There's only two options.
Vladimir Lenin was like, we are slowly being turned into Muslims here, but we all want our pleasure machine. Comrades, let us get our pleasure machine right now. Stand up with me. Let us fight for it. And that's exactly also what happened in America. That's what happened in France, the French Revolution. Prominently, everybody knows the French. They had enough of being turned into Muslims. They wanted to.
They had
pleasure machines.
They had enough of the Muslim overlords forcing them to talk to grandma all day. And they were
Yeah. I want a pleasure machine. I want a pleasure machine. Yeah.
Don't make me talk to my grandma anymore.
I want a pleasure machine.
How boring is your grandma that you're just like, revolution!
I'm a pleasure machine. I'm a machine à pleasure. I want a machine à pleasure. That's what they said, and that's how they got the pleasure machine. This is just all. Thank you, Daniel. Nobody knew this. I had no idea about this.
Wait, nowhere did I say that a 4-year-old should
You
be
should
in a sexual relationship.
All right. Okay, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, we went through that earlier. We should probably do super chats and close this out because this is.
Oh, but no, wait. I want to see the fight again.
Oh yeah, that was. There he goes. Going at.
On inconsistency.
Here's the thing that Daniel doesn't seem to understand.
So yeah,
Here's the thing that
whenever you get caught on inconsistency, you make a joke or you blast the F word. Whenever you're caught out on an inconsistency, you just blurt out the F word. You make a joke for your plant to laugh at.
That's amazing comment. That's an amazing comment.
There's
at Russia, a pleasure machine straps you on.
Time I have a good point that he knows.
Whenever you don't have an answer,
to talk over me.
Whenever you don't have an answer, you have to make a
I
dumb
have an
joke,
answer.
a
If you
boomer
shut the
joke.
fuck up, I'd tell you.
Oh, big man, come and say that right here.
Trying to say it right where? Here.
Relax.
I don't do anything. I'm not violent.
Go ahead.
Gentlemen,
Do it.
all right.
I'm saying I have an answer.
Sit down. Sit down.
Okay, I'll sit down.
You said
Sit
that
down.
you come over there and say it. I'm
Yeah.
not violent. I would never do
You
anything.
can't
violent.
respond to any point. You just make.
Daniel, you are a pathetic weasel. And here, everybody can see it. You're a pathetic little person, a little weasel, and everybody can see it right here on display, caught on camera. You like mocking other people, you like making fun of them, you like doing all kinds of dumb things. You are right here on camera being a complete little pathetic, weak weasel when you are the one suggesting violence, suggesting that if he comes over and says that to your face, you will deal with him. And he comes over to you, and he does say it to your face, and you suddenly back down and become that little boy, little man that you are, and tell him to just go back and sit down. That's what you are. That's what you are inside, aren't you? That's you want to show the world, you want to show to your Muslim audience that you are a strong, wonderful man. You are a Chad. You are tough. You're so hard. You're so wonderfully amazing, and people should be scared of you because they're weaklings. They're weaklings. They're pussies. You're strong. And there you are, backing down immediately as soon as somebody calls you out on your bluff.
He should have. Dan should at least stood up. I mean, he just looked, just sitting there. I mean,
He suddenly shrunk.
He shouldn't have called Matt over. Like, honestly, like this. There was so much in this you just needed de-escalated. And again, Daniel is very good at pushing people's buttons, and he pushed Matt's buttons, and Matt justly got upset about a lot of this stuff because, you know, he's up there talking about child marriage and terrorism, all these horrible things, and Daniel just keeps pushing his buttons, trying to get these reactions because that's what he wants to use. And this is what Daniel will go on about probably in his review. Oh, he's coming over threatening me. He's an unhinged atheist and all this stuff. And again, if anyone debates Daniel in the future, you gotta practice the stoic mentality. Just like there were parts of my debate where I almost like lashed out hearing some of the stuff he said, but I catch myself. Like you see me on stage going like, okay, don't, you know, like trying to calm myself down because I know he's saying horrible things to try to make you get unhinged. You gotta resist that kind of crap because that's what he wants to use against you.
Well, this is the dumb kind of stuff that his fans spread because he started it. Let me see what the comment. Let me see that there's a comment here. The hypocrisy of AP is uncanny, posted by Abu Gharib. He said, wait a minute, what did he say there somewhere? Let's get that out. I mean, I specifically want to highlight this because this is the kind of dumb stuff that his fans and he spread upon his orders. You cried in the debate, AP, and it wasn't in person, said he. By debate, he's referring to that 4-hour or 5-hour conversation that I had with Daniel Pikachu when I invited him on, where he also told me that we could, of course, talk about having an actual debate, which he immediately dropped after the debate was over, and then started saying, "I spanked this mutat, this apostate." I just want to ask you one question, Abu Gharib. Can you point me at the exact spot in that debate, which you call a debate, where I actually cried? Can you point me at that specific spot, or can you publish it? Can you publish that part and show where I actually cried? Like maybe I did cry. Like maybe I did. I cried. I'm a sensitive person. I can get very emotional. I can get upset about things. I might cry here and there. You know, I see something emotional happening. I see something that is unbearable, and I cry. Maybe I cried there. Maybe it did happen. Maybe I just don't remember it. Can you show me where I cried in the debate? Oh, you are saying it was afterwards. I cried afterwards. I see. Afterwards. So you mean afterwards, like later on, or do you mean the next day when I actually talked about the debate and I had an anxiety attack during the live stream? Is that what you're talking about? Dude, that's what you mean by crying, because I had an anxiety attack. So that means when I was when I had several other anxiety attacks, like when I talked about hating Jews, how Muslims hate Jews all the time, and I had an anxiety attack during that live stream randomly out of nowhere, and I started feeling cold and had to pause. That means I cried there too, because I was scared and humiliated and all of that stuff. I see. I guess when people have anxiety attacks, when they have panic attacks, that means they're crying because they are scared of their opponents, even when there is no opponent. Because that's what an anxiety attack is, right? Because you don't understand what an anxiety attack actually is, and you like to take that kind of stuff out of context in order for your hero to come here and engage in bullying, thinking that you have just humiliated the enemies of this dumb moron.
This guy needs to relax. He should probably try Daniel's strap-on pleasure machine. It might calm him down a little bit. It might make him feel a little better and not so aggravated.
It is true that I had an anxiety attack the next day when I was sitting down and talking about the debate, which was a time where I had a lot of anxiety attacks, where I canceled live streams because I had anxiety attacks, where I had to get off a plane because I had anxiety attacks, where I told David, I'm sorry, I can't come right now, I'm not feeling very good, because I was dealing with some really severe anxiety attacks, which, by the way, have nothing at all to do with being, I don't know, scared in a debate or whatever it is. You can have an anxiety attack from being too happy, from laughing too much. You can have an anxiety attack from laughing too much if you're dealing with an anxiety disorder. So before you talk about dumb stuff like this and want to act like your guy actually defeated and humiliated somebody, because that's the only thing you got, because as everybody can see, you are lacking in logic, you're lacking in dignity, in decency, logic is missing, knowledge is missing, intelligence is missing. Your guy is borderline retarded, and that's what you resort to because of that.
So Daniel won't have an official debate with you. He just had that conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little weird. 'Cause didn't he agree to like a more formal debate at one point?
He said that we would talk about having an actual debate afterwards, and then he immediately jumped out of it, chickened out of it. And I caught him live one day and confronted him on the name of Allah versus Yahweh, and he had no idea what he was talking about. It was embarrassing as hell. And I put it out there to show to everybody, and everybody who watches it now laughs at Daniel for being such an idiot, such a person who claims to be so knowledgeable and so superior to his non-Muslim opponents, to the Islamophobes, and then he sits there and he talks about Allah and about Yahweh and claims that Yahweh was a pagan name adopted from a pagan religion. And later claims he never said that, because he then realizes that saying that will imply eventually that Islam is also a fake pagan religion.
Yeah.
That's how dumb your guy is. Then that's why you have to resort to such personal attacks.
Yeah. So, well, this was interesting to say the least. Just now I'm going to have nightmares about Daniel's strap-on pleasure machine, and that's not good, and I'm just going to have to try to get those. I need to go to church and clean myself up. This is, oh my goodness, the stuff coming out of his mouth. It's amazing. Like, you know. So again, my question is like, we should go back to the good old days and just Christians and atheists would debate and deal with this kind of crap.
Well, then you are basically saying that you want to put on strap-on pleasure machines and...
That's all you atheists and Christians do when you debate. You put on your strap-ons and go after each other. And then you pee on the walls. Islam will fix all this.
Yeah, strap-on pleasure machines, that's what you get. That is what you get. And here we have it on this list. Let's watch it again because it was so beautiful. Here's Daniel acting tough and basically suggesting violence, and then backing down like a little kid, like okay, let's forget I never said that. How about sit down, let's talk.
Fuck up, I tell you.
Oh, big man, come and say that right here.
Trying to say it right where? Here.
All right.
Anything? I'm not violent.
Go ahead.
Do it. All right. I'm saying I have an answer.
Sit down.
Okay, I'll sit down. You said
Sit
that
down.
you come over there and say it. I'm not violent. I would never do
You
anything.
can't
violent.
respond to any point. You just make a joke.
I can't respond to any
So
point
you
'cause
do
won't
believe
shut the
in
fuck
schooling
up.
rape.
So
you believe in.
Do you want an answer?
Look how he's he lost that.
Educational rape.
This is your guy. This is Daniel Hikikachu.
I am so glad that, like, my debate with Daniel didn't evolve into this, because, like, again, I was just trying to keep it stoic, calm, because I know when Daniel starts pushing people's buttons, this is what happens, and that's what he thrives on.
Look how his face changed immediately after this. How his face and his whole demeanor changed.
Hey, pretending that I
Rape onto any point. You just make a joke.
I can't respond to any
So
point
you
'cause
do
won't
believe
shut the
in
fuck
schooling
up.
rape.
So
you believe in.
Do you want an answer?
And after this, he started attacking the audience and attacking random people in the audience and trying to insult them. And
That's another thing.
That's-
is he was
that's what you
attacking,
guys are.
fighting with people in the audience. Like, who cares what's going on in the audience? Just focus on the debate. Like,
Daniel
I never care
cares.
what the audience is doing.
Daniel cares because his views are so idiotic and his logic is so dumb. And people are mocking him over the stuff that he says already and hating him over the disgusting things that he suggests. Now the only thing he has left is to attack all those people who are hating him, making matters even worse. Maybe he should sit down and think, the stuff that I'm arguing here, you know, it's pretty messed up. But no, he just continues.
He needs to relax with his strap-on pleasure machine for a few hours and just sort of calm down. Maybe he'll reassess everything.
Yeah. General said, Bulldozer said, does anyone think Islam is Gnostic? I think unknowingly so, maybe, but
I think
not
he has
really.
elements that it shares with Gnostic.
Yeah, unknowingly. Yeshua the King said, in light of the one unforgivable sin, is rejecting Christ a part of that, or can God have mercy on someone truly not convinced and grant him the kingdom? That's what IP can answer. But it's important to...
In light of the one unforgivable... So the unforgivable sin is unbelief. It's rejecting the witness of the Holy Spirit. That's why it's the unforgivable sin, because you reject God. It has nothing to do with a specific act. It's more of like a demeanor. Like you're actively rejecting God continually. That's what Jesus paints it in the light when he mentions it. So in light of the one unforgivable sin is rejecting Christ apart from that, or can God have mercy? So again, it goes back to my theology that hell is not a place that people are thrown into. It's a place where people go who reject God. It's not a place people are thrown into against their will. All that are in hell choose it. That's the unforgivable sin.
Thank you. By the way, this video is sponsored by Pleasure Inc. Pleasure Inc. will give you great pleasures. Oh my god. Ditka, would you have... Okay, I already read that. Thank you. Are you pro-educational rape? Asking for Pikachu.
Say 2 + 2 = 4, or it's back to the pleasure machine if you don't.
I couldn't believe what he was saying. At first, I thought, wait, did you just say educational rape? A philosophical rape, philosophical rape, epistemological rape. You can just expand this to all kinds of things.
So much. What is with him? He's talking about strap-on pleasure machines. Everything's rape. I mean, like, I don't want to know what goes on in his head.
I know what's going on. It's not nice. Women bashers are not liked even by criminals. Depends on how you actually bash them. That's some of them are popular, like I don't know, Andrew Tate, for example, especially by criminals. But yeah, unfortunately. XXWZLXX said, remember when he spoke about analytical thinking being a form of colonialism? Did I get that right? I wasn't really paying attention, but he started talking about how people adopted specific ways of, like the law of non-contradiction and things like that as well. Because of, I don't know, I don't want to misrepresent him now.
It was confusing when he, I don't know, I had a hard time following him on that. He did not do a good job presenting his stuff. Like,
yeah, terrible. By the way, Daniel, I know you find it very, very, very bad when people talk about you. But I'm just not here. I'm not here to just talk about you. I'm also here to talk to you. I'm still waiting for you to clarify what exactly you meant by Yahweh was adopted. This pagan name Yahweh was adopted by those people. But anyway, I would like to get back and have an actual debate with you, unless of course you're scared and you don't want to have that debate because you don't think it will go well for you. But I'm always here. You can always contact me. You messaged me before several times. You thanked me for making you popular. You're welcome, by the way. I like it, and I take credit for that every single time when I see you go somewhere. I'm proud that I made you popular. I'm always here to have a debate with you. If you want to reach out to me, we can always discuss, is Islam true, for example. Please get back to me, Daniel. Thank you. And again, you're welcome for the whole popularity thing. Let's see. Count Booga said, good prophet AP sent David to the Shadow Realm. I did. I killed David.
Yeah, I gotta take off soon, so...
Okay. You can leave. You can leave.
Oh, okay. Just kicking me out. All right.
You can leave.
Get the hell out of here!
Thanks for having me on. I will never forgive you for making me go through the pleasure machine dialogue and monologue that was. Oh God. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go repent, read the Bible, feel better about myself.
Okay. Calm down. Stop using the pleasure machine. I appreciate always having you here, IP. And by the way, IP too. By the way, you're not special.
It is always a pleasure machine to be here. I mean, pleasure to be here.
As long as you don't strap it on. All right. Okay. Okay. Thanks, man. See you.
Right.
See, he got scared and he left. See.
You're finished already. Look at me. Look at me. You know you're done.
All right. I'll be here. I'm gonna read a few more super chats here. Then I will leave. If you want to. Wow, there are lots of super chats that I didn't read. Okay. I'm gonna read all of these and then I will leave. David, if you're still there, if you're still alive, and if you want to hop on at one point because your internet is suddenly back, you can still hop on and be tortured by me reading super chats. You love this part, I know. I know you do. Did you guys see and have thoughts on Daniel's argument from belief in spirit beings? Interesting side of all of this IMO. I only saw him briefly. I jumped into that whole. I started listening to the debate at, I don't know, 1 hour and 30 minutes or something like that. And he was explaining how believing in God is intuitional. And you don't need evidence, you don't need arguments, but we all have the intuition. We all have this drive to believe. Therefore, we should believe or something. It was just the worst attempt at having a discussion about the existence of God or the supernatural. Why would you even agree to have such a debate if you can't if you can't have proper arguments? It's so ridiculous. And there are lots of people who have had great debates on this stuff. You're not one of them. Jordan's Bulldozer said, "Hey Mike, did you ever listen to James Lindsay?" I can answer for him. I can say no. I don't know. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but I'm pretty sure he did not, just because I know him. Franklin Garcia said, "Hey, this is a little bit off topic, but IP. What are some sources?" See, I will send this to him again. Maybe he can answer all of this on his Twitter profile. I'll text him now. Julius Cap Teeth said, "Would you have Robert Price on your show?" For me. Robert Price. Isn't that the guy who was a guest on Derek's show quite a bit? Is that who we're talking about? Robert M. Price. Is that who? I don't know. Never thought about it. Not sure. I don't know. Tyson 277. I don't know anything about it. Tyson 277 said, "It's haram to give the wife some tongue action, but beating her and kids, having sex with kids or old men is halal." Yeah, but don't say the F word. That's where we draw the line. Don't say the F word. Have sex with. I don't even want to speak it out. Muhammad is in the book of Genesis, bros. Yeah. This is just so messed up. Dominic said, "I agree with AP that Daniel is not that stupid. He's using debate tactics equivalent to dirty boxing in pursuit of a win. Daniel is a skilled troll." I know. I still feel like he might be like an undercover plan to make Islam look bad, and he's paid for that by some strong people who don't like Islam. You know, maybe that's what's happening here. I'm not sure. It could be. It is entirely possible. If so, I must say, Daniel, you are very competent. You're doing a fantastic job. Fantastic job. Continue. And I hope you're getting good money for this. Royal Castrier said loud noises. Jordan's Bulldozer said Daniel is not welcome in Ancapistan anymore. What's the relation with ANCAP and Daniel? I don't know. Nikhil Sankar said, "I would have asked Daniel, if you think child marriage is so good for society, why are you married to an adult?" Because he can't. He wants to marry little kids. But the evil, secular, humanist, totalitarian system will not allow him to marry little kids. That's the problem. Break the Cross made a super chat and said break the cross. It's very disrespectful. Nikhil Sankar said, "To IP, how much did Israel pay you to convert to Christianity and talk shit about Islam like a covert agent?" I have to ask him that. I don't know how much he's paid. He might let me know or not. I will see. Daniel thinks Allah will give him a pleasure machine in Jannah. It's just the absurdest part of this whole thing that he kept ranting about this dumb pleasure machine. Like, doesn't he realize how stupid that was? Obviously he doesn't. Jordan's Bulldozer said Daniel confuses liberalism with neo-Marxism. Can't get anything right. Tanzil Muslim said, AP, could you explain what Marijn van Booten said about Allah's name? Also, did Mopus have mental issues? Mopus, you mean Muhammad? He did, definitely. And I wrote a big thread about that at one point. It wasn't that big. But I wrote kind of an article on that too, which I never published. I still need to get back to that kind of stuff. Marijn van Booten said about Allah's name. I can't remember what it is. I brought this up yesterday, but I can't exactly remember what our discussion was. But it was about whether Allah is a proper name in Islam or not. I can't exactly remember. I'm sorry. Tyson said, I was going to say he's a funny, weird little man with a weird hat, but no, he's just Muslim. It's very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. He's a tough guy. Daniel Kikichu is a tough guy. He's a big man. He's strong. You don't mess with Daniel Kikichu. You don't mess with this guy.
Have an answer. You have to make a
I
dumb
have an
joke,
answer.
a
If you
boomer
shut
joke.
the fuck up, I tell you.
Oh, big man, come and say that right here.
Trying to say it right where?
All right.
Here.
All right. Nice.
Chill out. Just relax. I don't do anything. I'm not violent.
Go ahead.
Okay, go sit down. Go sit